Chapter 26 1916 The UDC's pro-peace troops and the NCF's pro-peace groups have embarked on a crusade as valiant as any ever before. With fewer resources than their state-sponsored foes, they have cushioned the blows and reduced enlistment for war. But Britain's leaders, lawyers and lawmakers have allied with war makers who have started to strike back. With control over power, property and publications in many locations, they do not plan to backtrack. They write a pro-war prescription and introduce military conscription by passing the Military Service Act into law, which compels the innocent and the dissident to fight in their vicious war. The year is 1916. A Russian communist is writing a book which calls for income distribution to be more fair. An American oil baron is becoming the first ever US dollar billionaire, and a Swedish engineer is patenting a device to tune in radios too. In Ireland, a city is being submerged beneath the insurgents' flames. In Germany, they are cancelling this year's Olympic Games, and in America they are opening their first ever birth control venue, whilst the British win control over Qatar to expand their empire near and far without any need for a coup. Alfred follows this, and he also follows the National Service League's pro-conscription ovations, which used to be met with denunciations and a flurry of libertarian tirades. Whilst the National Service League has added drill to the school's syllabus, without much fuss, they have failed with 5 pro-conscription bills in the last 2 decades. This is because military service, the very thought of which makes Alfred feel nervous, has never been considered appropriate in Britain before, although it has become a rite of passage for boys in countries without Britain's poise, even in times without war. But as the peacemakers get out of hand, the war makers feel that they need to make a stand before a flow of new recruits gets too slow. The Lord of War has promised France 70 new divisions, and cannot get them without legal revisions, so his despair has started to show. This war cannot be won if we insist on clinging to old-fashioned British civil liberties, he says, sounding strong, wrong, and gung-ho. 1,000 times no. We must force unskilled workers to enter a fray so that skilled labourers can return from their front to produce munitions. These are desperate times, and desperate times call for desperate measures. The Lancastrian says that the Lord of War acts without reason, and accuses him of treason, which earns him support in the press, before 2 million workers make a stand for free will and vote against the bill, with support from the trade union Congress. They do not get their way, but they do have a say, and earn exemptions for police inspectors. They earn exemptions for family men, the bedridden, and conscientious objectors, which means Alfred could claim exemption on moral grounds, but scepticism abounds with regard to this classification. So peacemakers hide away, self-harm each day, and flee from this British nation. What will you do? Cleo asks, with exasperation. I don't mean to push. Oh, I am sorry, but I do worry about you sometimes. With a smell of herbs, housework and hair, Cleo sits down on his chair and chops his comfort pear. Please, I'll face the fire, Alfred replies with flair. You once said, I'm prepared to face the bullets for this cause. I'm prepared to serve my class and caste, gender and generation, with quintessentially British resistance. Well, now it's my turn to face those bullets. Please understand, conscription, along with the gagging of the press, is leading us towards totalitarianism. I mean, our government, thanks to Dora, won't even allow us to fly a kite these days, not without arresting us for it. And now they want to stop us from choosing where we work. Our freedoms are disappearing as we speak. Well, I'm going to combat this despotism from within. It's the greatest threat our nation faces, and I'm ready to go toe-to-toe with it. The NCF have trained me for my tribunal. My resolve is strong, 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 and I'm up for a fight. Yes, 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 we will win our war on war. Is there anything I can do to help? Cleo asks as she makes some piccalilli, nibs water lily, and this bowl of vegetable chili. I am so sorry I haven't done more already. Do tell me what the NCF told you. They tell me what questions to expect and how to answer them. They tell me how to stand, how to speak, and how to behave. They're doing a grand job. Simply smashing. Being awesome is hard, but they're managing it. They've got so many peacemakers to help, and so little time to help them. They're doing it. Yes, they are. They help peacemakers to prepare for their trials with bulging hearts and bulging smiles each morning and each afternoon. And they help Alfred to prepare his defence before he waits for his trial to commence, here in the town hall's main room. This place is still full of sloping brickwork, rumbling turrets which seem to smirk, and merlons like those on a castle, with Gothic lines above purple paint, wooden panels with varnished taint, and curtains which each have a tassel. A couple of chubby lamp-lighters and a couple of skinny firefighters sit together down there in the stalls. They face that stage where 7 men earn a wage for enforcing their country's new rules. The retired captain has been sent by a War Office decree with orders to launch a recruiting spree and ensnare each potential recruit. He acts as judge, jurisprudent and jury, with fever, frenzy and fury, dressed up in his khaki suit. With a jacket which is full of dark thread, and a beard which is a dark shade of red. The councillor is also on stage, but he lacks his colleague's height, spite, and rage. This mayor with brown hair spurts insult without a care, wearing a robe with a fake fur trim, whilst his don sits stony-faced and straight-laced without ever saying a thing. Here to represent the working classes, this trade unionist wears his pair of red glasses and a shiny red coat. This gentleman farmer, who is rather smelly, has a rather substantial belly and a habit of clearing his throat, while this banker, who wears a shirt made of flannel, completes his panel and looks like a billy goat. Sat in front of his waiters, watchmakers and welders, this motley mix of assorted elders follow a fairly predictable routine. They dismiss lawyers who try to earn a shilling, and they separate the unable from the unwilling, like a well-oiled machine. They rush through this draper with a giant nose, this haberdasher with brand new clothes, and this gardener whose scabs are covered in gauze. They rush through this youthful scamp, this dirty tramp, and these butlers with protruding jaws. Alfred particularly enjoys watching these Christians, ardent followers of their religions, who will fill him with a sense of awe, such as this red-faced charity worker, who the mayor calls a moral shirker, when he repeats his favourite law. "What's your name?" the retired captain asks with joy in his voice, as if to rejoice, before he starts to guffaw. "Thou shalt not kill," the charity worker always replies, with narrow eyes and a narrow jaw. "Righto, how old are you?" "Thou shalt not kill." "Jolly-o, what's your defence?" "Thou shalt not kill." "You belong on the lunar bin," the mayor adds his insult. "Thou shalt not kill," the charity worker says as a result. "What does the judge tell someone who's been found guilty of murder?" the banker wonders. "Thou shalt not kill," the charity worker thunders. The retired captain fills his pipe with fresh molasses and adjusts his crooked glasses before he repeats his only decree, because even though tribunals have the seniority and the authority to set these defendants free, they have only ever given acquittals to brewers, wrongdoers, and a hunt based near to the sea. "Let's not mince matters," the retired captain always repeats with glee. "We bestowed you with the privilege of speaking here today, and listen patiently to a whimsical ribaldry which you have the gall to dish up. 'Tis clear that you've got no case whatsoever, and so you'll join the non-combatant corps forthwith. For your country, for your country. Cheerio." The retired captain sucks on his pipe, gives his glasses a wipe, and bangs his heavy gavel, before he continues with his questions and his pro-war suggestions, as his trials all unravel. "Jesus would support this war, and you know it. You can count on it. Sure-o," he says as his Christadelphian takes a stand. "Christ in khaki," the Christadelphian shoots back on the counter-attack whilst he waves his podgy hand. "Our Lord in France, thrusting his bayonet into the children of God, the Messiah with a machine gun, ambushing a column of German infantry, and mowing them down in their helplessness. Jesus in a cavalry charge, cutting, hacking, thrusting, crushing, cheering. No, no, no. It will never happen, and you know it." Alfred cheers out loud, as is his crowd, which supports the next Christian in line, this metalsmith who has wrinkled skin, a topsy-turvy chin, and a topsy-turvy spine. "If a Boche invaded your town," the retired captain asks in his jovial whine, "and if they raped all the women there, wouldn't you consider it your duty to stand up to them? Strong-o." "Let me quote Romans 12, the metalsmith replies. "It tells us not to take revenge or succumb to wrath, because the Lord will avenge us. It tells us that if the Germans invade our town, we should overcome their evil with good." "Frowsy cad," the mayor mutters. "This man may know his Bible, but he only knows it narrowly. This jumping Jesus knows nothing about the real world. This Chuckins is a muddled imbecile, an apish buffoon, a crazy hoot owl." "At all events, academic anarchism aside," the retired captain resumes, "do you seriously think you could stop old Hindenburg from bayoneting your dear mother simply by giving her a cup of tea? Hot-o?" "Perhaps not," the metalsmith says, "but I wouldn't be able to protect her if you sent me to France, would I? And even if I could, there still wouldn't be any reason to hurt a fellow human being. Because, as Matthew 10 tells us, force may save our earthly life, but love will save our soul. If I protected my mother down here on earth, I'd be able to hold her in my blood-soaked arms for now. But if the Germans were to kill her, she'd find peace in the arms of God for evermore. Matthew 10 tells us to flee from persecution, not to fight it, and that's exactly what I plan to do." The retired captain scratches his bushy beard, because he's flat-footed by an opinion which he finds so weird, crazy, cuckoo, and creepy. And he takes a different approach with his smoker, this insurance broker, who's wiry, waxy, and weepy. "Revelations 19 does encourage a little judicious severity," he says in a voice which is slightly creaky. "It tells us that God himself wages war, leading the armies of heaven, dripping with human blood, to strike down evil nations. The Lord, I tell ye, is a man of war. True-o." "He may very well be," the insurance broker replies. "He may make as many wars as he likes, but that doesn't mean that we humans should." "By hook or by crook, the Bible does tell us humans to take an eye for an eye," Revenge, oh! The Old Testament tells us to take an eye for an eye, but Jesus tells us to turn the other cheek. That an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. That you can't put out a fire by adding fuel to the flames, and you can't fight your way to peace. Well, I'm damned. What a funny thing. Ha ha ha. Such comfortable middle-class sentimentality. Righto, but you must admit that the New Testament does tell us to serve the state, to render unto Caesar everything which is his. That's also true, the insurance broker agrees. But so few things are Caesar's. Just the coins he mints, the palaces he builds, and the lands he seizes. My life belongs to God. Neither Caesar nor the state has any right to it. Profanity, profanity, profanity. You've turned the Bible on its head, the mayor begins to call, as he stands up tall, whilst the Don just stares ahead at the opposite wall. God is British to the bone, and every fellow here knows it. You can't exploit him to save yourself, you blaspheming cadaverous prig. You disgusting shambles of porcelain skin, unwholesome fat, and puny bones. Your blatant disregard for God's words shan't earn you any favours here. That's 5 minutes. Let's wrap this up. Chop chop. The gentleman farmer blurts impatiently and shamelessly, whilst he clears his throat outrageously. Humph, cough, cough. The retired captain continues to smoke and begins to choke before he empties his mermaid-shaped pipe, before he looks at his potential conscript and reads from his script, whilst he gives his glasses a wipe. Let's not mince matters, he says with a joyous sort of hype. We bestowed you with the privilege of speaking here today, and listen patiently to the whimsical ribaldry which you have a gall to dish up. It's clear that you've got no case whatsoever, and so you'll join the non-combatant corps forthwith. For your country. For your country. Cheerio. But most defendants do not have the insurance broker's eloquence, his intelligence, or his sense. Alfred watches these peacemakers approach the lawmakers like pupils who have been sent to the headmaster. What they lack for employees, they make up for with noise as they speak louder and as they speak faster. Uneducated, unprepared, and unrepresented, they are discontented as they march towards disaster. To the stocker who wears a hearing aid, runs like a soldier who's on a military raid, looking delirious, demented, and deranged. He's mad at the mayor who's just called him a refusenick, a lily-livered tulip, and short-changed. And so he slams his palm onto the panel's bench, ignores the gentleman farmer's three-line stench, and knocks over his three-legged chair. He removes his knife from his pocket and launches it like a rocket, which flies through the stuffy air. He stabs his own hand and pins himself to a stand before he begins to swear. Jizz, sperm, spunk, he yells whilst blood pours over his knuckles. The banker chuckles, and the Don continues to stare. I'm no coward. I'm happy to suffer. See, I'd even be happy to sweep for mines. But there aren't any causes which I'd ever kill for. Not one. Never. No way. After a brief adjournment to unpin the docker, Alfred watches his moral objector walk past that locker, after his medical records are torn into bits, before he watches this independent objector with skinny fingers and a cologne which lingers, who slobbers, salivates, and spits. I done got no defence against a letter of your law, he admits. It comes only in the spirits of peace. I done volunteered in a temperance cafe, to help refugees in the Balkans, and to house the homeless, but I'll never go volunteer for you. It's only because of a twist of fate that I'm British, a billowy pharmacist says, with eyes which are ablaze, as they glare, grimace, and gaze. If I'd been born in Germany, I'd be refusing to fight for the Germans too. But you, who put your country first, would be conscripting people to fight against us if you'd been born over there. You're just a bunch of hypocrites. Peckerhead, slummock, gundigger, you ought to be shot, you ought to be hung, you ought to be put across my knee and spanked, the mayor tells the moral objector with bitter scorn. You're muddled, criminally muddled, he tells the independent objector whilst he blows like a horn. The only way you'll get a discharge is by dying. There's no such thing as a conscience. Confound your fooling, he tells the pharmacist who looks forlorn. You ninny hammer, you noddle pole, go create a potion for your cowardice. This youngster is told, you're too young to have a conscience. This atheist is told, we can't give your opinions credence. And the socialist is told, stop your blasted impedance. That's 5 minutes, the gentleman farmer interrupts them all, whilst his child bounces a ball, and the Don stares ahead at the opposite wall. Harumph, cough, cough. Let's wrap this up. Chop, chop. Before these businessmen seek exemptions to continue their careers, and these brewers seek exemptions to make more beers, whilst they act like frauds, forgers, and fakers. But since they are unconcerned with airing their views, these slackers in shiny shoes seem more astute than all of the peacemakers. This pauper who is frail, and this peasant who is thin, with scratches on his tongue and scratches on his skin, both lie about their age. This stubbly transvestite in a floral dress pretends to be a female without much success, as he prances across the stage, before his talkative boor takes to the floor and feigns a broken rib cage. The panel dismisses this elderly man who will suffer without his son at home, and this cripple with a bent back bone who they call weak. They dismiss this collier who looks demure, and this farmhand who smells of manure, before he can even speak. Don't you even wash yourself? The mayor begins to shriek. You don't look like you do. You fopdoodle. You humgruffin. You milksop. Yours is a case of an unhealthy mind and an unwholesome body. Off to war with you. You should join the non-combatant corps forthwith, the retired captain agrees. For your country. For your country. Cheerio. Panos goes off to eat some lunch, which leaves Alfred with some thoughts to crunch as he wanders down the streets. A prisoner of war whose prospects are thin, prepares to face the army which has captured him and want him to march their beats. When he returns, he sees Cleo holding his telegrams and the sack of fresh yams which he recently stole. For Cleo still steals cots, cabbages and carrots, pots, pens and parrots, cocoa, cream and coal. These telegrams came for you, she says as she drops his stolen bowl. From people who couldn't be here in person. Oh, I am sorry they couldn't be here in person. I'm a good gobbo, aren't I? The best. You're simply smashing, Alfred replies, before he looks around this hall where he sees the birds he once freed, doing his first ever good deed, all begin to sing. He sees the cat he rehoused, who is unaroused, as he purrs away like a king. He sees the orphans who are sitting on the balcony, where they have been full of giggles, gladness and glee, ever since they all turned up. He sees the fisherman he saved from a storm, who seemed witty, whimsical and warm, near a mute boy who is holding a cup. The groom, who Alfred provided wine for, sits near this open door, and near this rheumatic who no longer has a fever, near a paralytic who sits in a new wheeled chair, and a fishmonger who sits over there, near that chirpy cotton weaver. The children who Alfred gives presents to are sat on this pew, wearing a mixture of golds, greys and greens. They chat with Alfred's customers, with his costumers, and this group of skinny deans. The disciples who Alfred has preached to on the streets squeeze into the good seats, next to this nun who starts to pray, next to the deserter who looks upbeat, and the suffragist who looks sweet, disguised by a floral bouquet. They chant for Alfred's release, they chant for peace, and they chant with devotion. They create this cymbal smashing, drum bashing, guitar thrashing commotion, which causes the gentleman farmer to sway before his shiny toupee falls off of his shiny head. He coughs, convulses and chokes, cries, cackles and croaks, which makes him turn dark red. Ahum, harumph, cough, cough. These orphans tap their feet on the floor, and the panel guffaw, whilst Alfred takes a stand. But the Don does not move at all. He just stares ahead at the opposite wall, whilst the mayor just waves his hand. On the basis of what beef-witted scruples you claiming exemption, my son? What one of our lily-livered government's 2-cent rules are you here to abuse today? The retired captain pries. I'm claiming an exemption on the basis that I have a conscience, Alfred replies, which makes me a conscientious objector. Yes, yes, yes. Righto. Are you a political objector or a religious objector? I've sympathy for all those chaps. Yes, thank you. I think they're smashing. Fantastic. Top notch. But I myself am a patriotic objector. And what on earth in the high heavens is a patriotic objector? Blimey-o. It really is the small things one bungles at. A patriotic objector is someone who opposes to anything, such as war, which sullies the good name of the country they love, Alfred explains. Someone who truly loves their country, without needing to hate another country too. You see, I love Britain with all my brain, all my heart, and all my soul. I love Britain with all my reason, emotion, and spirit. I love our bubbling brooks and hilly fells, twisting paths and stony walls, trolling towns and choppy seas. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you. I love our ability to laugh at ourselves, mock our leaders, and lose at every sport we invent. I love our irresponsible consumption of alcohol, caustic sense of humour, and obsession with the weather. I love the poet, the bard, and the dandy. I love afternoon tea, Sunday roasts, and crumpets. I love, love, love our school system, which educates even the poorest child. I love our democracy, and I love the liberties which we all enjoy. I'm thankful for this nation. It's a wind beneath my wings. It's the star of my daydreams, and it's made me the man I've become. I'm grateful for everything Britain has ever done for me, but I see the very things which make Britain great coming under threat because of this war. I see a country whose very identity is being destroyed. Dora is stealing our freedom of press, freedom of speech, and freedom of thought. Our government won't even allow us to open our shops after 8 o'clock these days. They'll even arrest us for sitting next to a bridge or a tunnel. And now conscription is enslaving our people. It's taking away our right to choose our profession. It's taking away our right to choose to live or die. And it's crushing British liberty beneath Prussian militarism. Please, 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 please. Our government is plunging this nation into tyranny, totalitarianism and terror. And I won't stand for it. I'll fight this fascism. I'll combat this coercion. And I'll destroy this despotism. I'll dissent because it's patriotic to dissent. Because it's patriotic to mutiny. And because it's patriotic to oppose a war which is bringing our nation into disrepute. So I won't be conscripted. No, no, no. No, thank you. I'll follow the tradition of British volunteerism to serve my country with random acts of kindness, not vicious acts of violence. Bene agere at litere, rejoicing in the good which we do. And so I stand here as a patriotic objector, opposed to conscription itself, in the name of liberty, in the name of freedom, and in the name of Great Britain. Peacemakers smack rolled up papers against their sweaty palms and swing strangers by their sweaty arms whilst they howl, holler and hoot. They say England arise, whilst the groom stares into the councillor's eyes. These orphans shout freedom and those children salute. Outnumbered, outfought and outplayed, distressed, disconcerted and dismayed. The retired captain changes his method of attack. To show that he's intelligent, respectable and strong, he interrupts Alfred when he speaks for too long or tries to talk back. You believe in freedom, my son? He jovially sings. I do, Alfred begins. I do. So you'll be prepared to protect European freedom then? For your country? For your country? Of course. Yes, please. So you'll fight for it then? Freedom is bought by blood after all. Freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, and war is peace. We're fighting for peace, my son. We're fighting for peace. No. That's just doublespeak. You can't fight for peace any more than you can fornicate for chastity, rape for love, or kill for life. Fighting crushes freedom. Pooh, what a crummy girl. I don't think you care a noodle for freedom, what with your hair splitting and your selfish little fads. The retired captain begins to coax as he smokes and then chokes. Oh, chuck, my son, I don't think you care a hang for Great Britain. Methinks you care more for those darn blasted Teutons, all covered in iron crosses and red eagles, than you do for us Brits. Bosho. I do care for the Germans, Alfred agrees. I care for all humans. A turncoat, a traitor, a prissy two-timer. The mayor nods. You even associate with a German, don't you? Sure-o. The retired captain prods. Yes, thank you, Alfred replies as he looks up to the gods. A man who left Germany when conscription was introduced, who... Methinks 'tis safe to say you're a German sympathiser then. The retired captain begins to fume. He hasn't, offered Germany a drop of sympathy. The councillor interrupts and erupts because he is ambushed by a gaze from a mutilated groom. How, absurdly befuddled you are. Aiding, assisting, accompanying, associating and agreeing with a sneeze. Person who opposes German militarism, an enemy of the enemy, stiff. It's no outrage, offence, crime or corruption. Burp. Far from it. The councillor's statement is followed by this pause, which is followed by this noisy applause and this noisy celebration. The crowd stamp their wellies, jiggle their bellies and sway away in formation, which makes the retired captain feel agitated, frantic, flustered and frustrated as he shakes behind his desk, because he once loved Alfred as his own, so he feels betrayed, battered and blown, and he looks a little bit grotesque. I beg your pardon, he shouts in a manner which is loud, proud and Kafkaesque. You're no more than an honest idiot, full of damnable lies. You're an ignorant, foul-mouthed suffragette, even if I don't say so myself. It'd be false of you to deny it. True-o. I'm a suffragist, Alfred corrects, and I don't deny it. I'm grateful for it. I'm terrorist, thug, princess. The mayor clicks with sticky lips, which are covered in greasy chips. Scullion, Rumpallion, Fistularian. If ever a boy needed the army to toughen him up, 'tis this stewed prune here. Blimey, warfare would be just about impossible if everyone behaved like him. Don't play the fool, the retired captain continues to proclaim his views, with a pen in his hand and some paper on his shoes. Tell me, son, are you scared of dying? Coward-o. No, Alfred replies. I'm scared of killing. I shouldn't think you'd defend your very own sister from attack. I don't have a sister. My father was killed at war before he could sire one, so I'll not kill a German father or... Sister or no sister, what did you do if I pushed you over? Violent-o. I'd stand back up, and would you cuff me once you were back on your feet? No, thank you. You can't overcome hatred with yet more hatred. Force can kill the liar, but not the lie. The hater, but not the hate. And the violent, but not the violence. Hate begets hate. Violence begets violence. And war begets war. If you attack me, I'd run to the police. And can the Belgians just run away? 1 in 5 of them have. What naked lunacy? The mayor sputters. This man is a smollygoster, a waddy drug, a jobbernow. That's 5 minutes, the gentleman utters. Let's wrap this up. Chop chop. Cough cough. No, the retired captain mutters. I've got more for this frowsy ninny. He's one of the no conscription fellowship's 50 members. Yes, sir. There are over 5,000 of us, Alfred says as he smiles at his supporters, these bookish reporters, interns, investors and importers. The UDC has 650,000 members too. You're part of a ragtag group which blasphemes against the state, goes about in secret to spread twaddle amongst our people. Lies-o. I've spoken openly to the world, Alfred replies. I've made my views about war very, very, very clear, in church, door to door, and wherever people come together. I've never hidden away or spoken in secret. So why do you question me? Question those who've heard me speak. I'd be ever so grateful. I'd be very much obliged. Ah, 'tis true, these fishermen growl. He's got you, these supporters howl. Ooh, these orphans yowl. The gentleman farmer begins to sneeze, wail, whimper and wheeze, before he throws his tarnished coin, which hits Alfred's cheek and leaves his bloody streak, which which ships down onto Alfred's groin. "Is that how your type speak to a respectable military man?" the gentleman farmer says, whilst he scratches his loin. "It's damnable. Smarten yourself up, boy. Chop chop. Show some respect." "If I've spoken wrongly, testify against me for it," Alfred answers. "But if I've spoken rightly, please, why do you strike me? Why? The gentleman farmer looks awry, because he is unable to reply, as he starts to cough, as people of every age throw coins at the stage, which knock his toupee off. After many noisy chants and many noisy cheers, many noisy heckles and many noisy jeers, this rumpus eventually dies down, before the retired captain speaks in his jovial tone, without starting to groan or starting to frown. "Alfred, your pa was a strong soldier, an intelligent fellow, and a respectable gentleman, even if I don't say so myself. This is your chance to follow in his footsteps and surpass his greatness. For your country. For your country. You know, I do recall being in your pa's unit during the winter of 1900. He was out on patrol when a lion, a thundering big thing, came in from a bush and grabbed a fusilier in its jaw. It's a damnably horrific scene. Nasty, oh. Well, your pa chased after that lion. Just imagine it. When the lion rose up on his back feet, your pa pulled him down by his mane and killed him with his bare hands. It was a first-class show. Bloody oh! On another occasion, a giant, a truly dreadful scoundrel, entered our camp in an almighty fury, angry, well-armed, and seeking blood. My son, all your pa had to protect his men were some pebbles which he found in the dust, and a small slingshot which he had made himself. Flimsy oh! His comrades thought the giant was so big that it had crushed them both. Death oh! But your pa thought the giant was so big that he couldn't miss. And so your pa ran straight at the giant, full of guts and glory, and floored him with the first stone he held. For his country! For his country! Your pa beheaded the giant with the giant's own sword. Swish-o! Your pa saved his whole camp from that invader. He saved life after life, just like our soldiers are doing in France. Don't you want to be a hero like him? My son, it'd be awfully peculiar not to. Strange, oh? Not at all, Alfred replies. No, thank you. I never kill an animal who's following its instincts, or a man who's defending his homeland. It's disgusting. It's inhumane. It's rotten buffoonery. That's what it is. The mayor begins to call, with gall, whilst the Don just stares ahead at the opposite wall. All this drivel of yours is that a flim-flam, cotwallop, and pish-posh. It is indeed, the retired captain resumes. Nonetheless, I do believe that there's a warrior side of you, my son. 'Tis in your blood, and a splinting carcass should bring it out. For your country. For your country. My son, you'll thank me for it one day. Fancy. Be a wickedness for a fine young thing like you to bide time at home. Shame-o! So let's not mince matters. We bestowed you with the privilege of speaking here today, and listen patiently to the whimsical ribaldry which you have a gall to dish up. It is clear you've no case whatsoever, and so you'll join the non-combatant call forthwith. For your country, for your country. Cheerio. These children hiss, hollow, and hoot. These birds twit, twitter, and swoot, and this children kicks a chair. This customer throws a shoe, these fishermen boo, and that supporter starts to glare. I'll destroy your army from the inside, Alfred starts to blare, and in 3 years I'll rise up again. Yes, thanking you. Alfred salutes his vociferous crowd. He cheer out loud, and all salute him back, and he begins to smile as he walks down this aisle and down the central track. But as he leaves, his vision starts to freeze, which almost leaves him blind. Colours seem scuzzy, outlines seem fuzzy, and shapes seem less defined. Hellish hallucinations and demonic divinations begin to plague his mind. He sees his authoritative teacher, this malicious creature who flashes rose, ruby, and red, who bends Alfred over without composure and fills Alfred with fearful dread, as he crashes his cane through Alfred's skin, shin, and head. He sees the dominant assailant begin to grab, jolt, jerk, and jab with his punches and with his kicks, before he counts his spoils of war, throws Alfred onto the floor, and grinds him into his bricks. And he sees his father just up in an army suit, acting like a vicious brute, with fury on his face, as he floods Benin in a loutish coup, and spells the Ashanti too, whilst his angry hornets give chase. So Alfred feels glum, gloomy, and grim, but no one sees him, and no one cares, because everyone in this nation, in every location, is blinded by wartime affairs. As the war spreads from Russia to Antarctica, Turkey to Malaysia, and all across the east, from Mozambique to Angola, and Togo to Kenya, like a ravenous sort of beast. Portugal has just joined the fight, much to the Allies' delight, and Romania is about to step in. Brazil is ready, China is steady, and America will go when they know who will win. But this news passes Alfred by, as articles called Conchies awry, with headlines which screech, the fellowship of the faint-hearted should all be ignored, which shriek, send those weak and feeble souls abroad, and which squeal, homosexual horde. Streets turn into whirlpools of grey, and buildings seem to sway as Alfred struggles for sanity. Sights seem to blur, and voices seem to slur as he struggles with a warmaker's vanity. Amidst this foggy haze, Alfred's call-up card arrives after 3 more days, but Alfred leaves it ignored. He insists on being taken militarily, so he refuses to register voluntarily or of his own accord. Which brings a policeman here, with a scab on his ear and orders to escort Alfred to his new battalion. Policeman's truncheon hangs like a spike, and his lantern hangs from his bike, near his new medallion. Cleo pretends to nap, dressed in a nightcap, a nightie and a night ring. Saves Alfred from a frustration that a separation would probably bring. The 8 different dreams with 8 different themes have given Cleo a psychic sort of foresight, so she has made Alfred get life insurance before he forgets, settle his debts, and feel alright. She has taken his battered backpack, which is blue, beige and black, and filled it with the items suggested in her NCF guide. She has packed a pencil, shirt shaver and stencil, and she has hidden her frankincense and myrrh inside. Alfred leaves her and walks past his unopened box of toothpicks, his stool and his crucifix, before he tiptoes down the stairs. Before he tiptoes past his gnome which Cleo broke, these stains from lamp smoke, these apples and these pears. He cuts off a lock of his hair, leaves it for Cleo on his chair, and steps out into his yard, where he passes this olive mountain, this broken fountain, and this pile of folded up card. "I'll walk behind, I shall," the policeman says, sounding harassed. No. Alfred starts to coo, sounding tickety-boo, and totally unembarrassed. "You've nothing to be ashamed of. You're a fine man, an upstanding member of society, a shining light. We're lucky to have you." So walk together past this clock which rolls its eyes, this chippy which sells pies, and these chimneys which exhale grey smoke, this road sweeper who earns a low salary, this boarded up gallery, and this majestic ancient oak. "Do what you got to do," the policeman says as he hands Alfred to this arresting sergeant, who has a musty scent which makes Alfred want to choke. "Anyways, I respect you, I do. You're one of a kind, so you are." The policeman waves goodbye, and the arresting sergeant starts to sigh as he pushes Alfred's shoulders, as he pushes Alfred past this yellow farm, this yellow barn, and this pile of yellow boulders. "Keep in step like a soldier, boyo," he demands somewhat formally. No, please?" Alfred questions as he walks ahead normally. "We don't do manners here, boyo. You're in the army now. We demand blind obedience here. And don't think you can fight us. Stay in line and you'll profit. You've all the makings of a sergeant. But do be warned, we tame lions here." "I don't doubt it for a minute," Alfred replies. "But I do think you'll struggle to get this lamb to all. Please." They walk down these misty roads, past these mules who pull their loads, and these gas lamps which glimmer in hidden squares, past this war widow who mourns her spouse, this painted townhouse, and these endless thoroughfares, these slouching hills, crumbling mills, and cottages which appear in pairs, before they arrive in this remand cell, which has this fetid smell, 1 table and 3 chairs. Alfred sits near these prisoners who look demure, this latrine which is full of manure, and his family of mangy rats. He uses this moth-eaten rug to keep warm, whilst he ignores that storm, and those drunks who engage in spats. Before dawn arrives, this prisoner cries, and he is taken to this coastal barracks, where he is led into this cupboard by this lanky cadet who has a long face, buck teeth which protrude into space, and eyes which are slightly grey. The equine soldier tries to profit from the store because he is bored of the war and wants to supplement his meagre pay. "Put this on, Ginger," he begins to neigh. "I can give you a uniform that fits for a price of a pint." He throws his uniform with force, which releases a smell of damp horse as it falls to the ground in a ball. But Alfred just stands here looking forlorn, because he does not want a uniform, be it too large or be it too small. So he shrugs, looks at these rugs, and looks at this crumbling wall. "You don't have to like it, you low-life son of a bitch. You just have to do it," this curt cadet begins to drawl. "Because if you don't put this uniform on, right here, right now, right away, we'll force you into it ourselves. Just you wait and see. And may God have mercy on your soul if we do, scumbag, because I know I won't. I'll make you wish you'd never been born." This soldier's skin has a texture of candle wax, is covered in uneven cracks, and is misshapen by uneven bone. The musty smell in the air mixes with a greasy smell of his hair and the stench of his cheap cologne. But Alfred just stands here and shrugs, looks at those mugs, and refuses to be thrown. "Be a doll, baby girl," the lanky cadet says with a sideways shimmy, a whinny, and a moan. "It's only wool and webbing." "Why should I?" Alfred questions with a groan. "Uniforms are for soldiers. I'll never be a soldier. No, thank you. I abhor wars, the soldiers who fight in wars, and the uniforms which are worn for wars. You wouldn't make a German prisoner wear British khaki, so please don't make your British prisoners wear it. Please. The lanky cadet starts to smile, whilst the curt cadet turns vile and grabs hold of Alfred's collar. He tears Alfred's shirt apart, releases his fart, and starts to holler. "Ah, woo! Need I go on? oxygen thief, you half-baked moronic idealist. Yours is not to reason why. Yours is to do and die. You swine. Drop and give me 20. Alfred just shrugs, looks at these bugs and this row of slimy slugs. And like the silence who mugged Alfred as a child, the Kirk cadet looks wild as he stamps on Alfred's ankle bone, as he punches Alfred's hairy chin and kicks Alfred's hairy skin, which makes Alfred want to groan, before he removes Alfred's trousers so quickly that it makes him feel prickly and makes him want to moan. Ready for your uniform, poltroon? He asks in this nasty tone. We're going to turn you into a lean, mean fighting machine. Just you wait and see. Alfred just shrugs, looks at these jugs and his tray of empty jugs. It's no good, cowboy, the lanky cadet snorts, whilst his horsey face contorts near that tray of mugs. We should save our aggression for the Germans. The staff sergeant can deal with this foal. And so the Kirk cadet mutters, blasted insurgent, goes to find the staff sergeant, whilst the lanky cadet starts to smile. He laughs with so much force that his throat turns hoarse and he chokes on some snotty bile. I can only apologise, Bella, he blows in a horsey style. You've got your principles, dancer, and I've got mine. I don't agree with you, not one bit, but I sure do respect you for keeping hold of your reins. The lanky cadet turns silent as soon as the staff sergeant enters this darkened room, where he starts to flare, flutter and fume, simmer, seethe and snap. With a belly which sways with each of his motions, and a face which changes colour with each of his emotions, here is a bedevilled chap. A man who believes that everything is devilled, devilment or devilry, calls people devils with devilish revelry, and loves a devilish scrap. Put that hat on this instant, you dirty devil, he bellows, whilst his face turns a mixture of yellows, and he hurls his kirky cap. Or we'll shoot you dead, just like the last peace crank that came this way. Your devilish pride shan't do you any favours here. Yours is the devil's work, you damned degenerate. But with only the hair on his chin to cover his skin, Alfred just shrugs. He just rolls his eyes, sighs, and looks at that pile of rugs. And he starts to sweat, because he is aware that this is not an idle threat, having heard of a miner who was shot for insubordination. But Alfred has promised to die for his beliefs, so he disobeys his army chiefs, in spite of their intimidation. We all owe death for life, I suppose, he replies with resignation. Stupid devil, the staff sergeant replies with frustration. Give the dirty devil the water treatment. Throw the druggy devil in the horse trough. Hose the dungy devil down until he shivers so much that he stops his devil-made care agenda and is grateful for the devilishly warm uniform which he's being offered. The Kirk cadet follows this order with unquestioning obedience, violent subservience and violent expedience, as he grabs at Alfred's arm. But the lanky cadet is so appalled by this experience that he acts with perseverance to protect Alfred from any sort of harm. This filly will come without force, he squeals with alarm. And Alfred is indeed happy to walk past his munition stores, seashores and stables, these red brick halls, red brick walls and overhanging cables. He walks past his recruits who parade militarily before he enters his trough voluntarily, where his icy cold water burns his skin, where the Kirk cadet bounces him like a ball, bangs his head against this wall and scratches his bloody shin. Dank devil, the staff sergeant shouts with his frown, which turns his face brown near his chubby chin. Is this devil going to have to find more work for your idle thumbs, or are you ready for a devilishly warm uniform? It's ever so kind of you to offer, Alfred replies. You're kinder than Santa and cooler than ice on the rocks. But I'd rather not. No thank you. What, the devil? Don't be a fool, man. It's cold enough without fools. Get this damn devil out of here. Take him straight to the devil. The Kirk cadet grabs Alfred's knees, drags him past these trees, to this cliff top, which is the colour of rust. But Alfred is bashed by this icy hail, beaten by this icy gale, and battered by this icy gust, which splashes these waves into those caves and creates a cyclone of dust. Keep the little devil here until he freezes or comes to his devilish senses, the staff sergeant says with disgust, and shoot the devil if he resists. Alfred is still damp from the trough, so he feels rickety, wretched and rough, as his skin turns pale blue. As his blood pressure decreases, his heartbeat increases, and he starts to contract the flu. He's a wild bronco, that staff sergeant, the lanky cadet snorts and contorts as he takes in this coastal view. An untamed colt. That mare wouldn't allow me to return home on my day off. And I'm not the only one who detests him, so you'll earn some respect for sticking it to him, Buttercup, that's for sure. The lanky cadet flings Alfred over his back and walks down this track, whilst Alfred's arms sway and Alfred's legs dangle. They arrive in his medical ward, near his calling cord, and his drips, which are all in a tangle, near his nurses in white skirts, his doctors in white shirts, and his chains, which start to jangle. Alfred rests beneath his cotton cover, and slowly starts to recover over the course of the next few days, before the staff sergeant enters this room with his look of doom and his eyes which are both ablaze. Doctor devils, dentist devils, dermatologist devils, get the devil out of here, he says as he removes his cap, puts it on his lap and gives Alfred this devilish gaze. A devil of a fine show you put on out there. I only hope you'll come to see what we're doing here is for your own good. We're not selling ourselves to the devil, but it sure is a devil's job we're doing. You see, when I was your age, men were men, Women were women, and the world was all the better for it. We kept the devil from the door. But these days, society's become full of effeminate men and masculine women. The devil is in the details. People have been in devilish decline, physically and morally, for many years now. Working class devils have become unclean and sickly, whilst upper class devils have been corrupted by decadence and dandyism. The devil sure has been taking care of his own. I see it every day. I see a whole stream of feeble, faint-hearted and feminine consciences with unwholesome bodies and unhealthy minds. I see our once great nation and the British race undergoing a process of reverse evolution. Degeneration. It sure is a devil of a way to go. Most unsatisfactory. Too many defiant devils are happy to live under our government without obeying it. Homosexual devils, nigger devils, and you country devils, who are savage as the blacks and as queer as the gays, you damn degenerates. But this war will sort you out. This war has been sent by the devil as a punishment for your pursuit of luxury and vice. This war will fix you, and I'll fix you too. I'll fix every last country devil out there, even if it's the last thing I ever do. Send me to the devil if I don't. As he shouts and as he speaks, the staff sergeant puffs his cheeks and changes colour with each of his emotions. He turns blue as he opposes insubordination, pink as he opposes degeneration, and red as he promotes his notions. Personally, I'm of a mind to line all you white-livered skunks up against the walls of hell and shoot you out of hand, he says with his exaggerated motions. Your sort are so dreadfully slapdash. But the commander devils don't think you're worth a tuppence which a bullet would cost. Worse luck, I say. So I'm going to work you like the devil until your muscles turn to rock, drill you so hard you can run forever, and punish you with devil-filled fury if you ever cross me again. You damn degenerate. I'll build in you what you lack as a man. I'll make you obedient, and I'll make you serve. The devil I will. The staff sergeant brushes down his chubby lap and starts to clap with a meaty part of his hand. His face turns red like chili powder, and his voice gets even louder as he repeats his original demand. Put that uniform on this instant, you dirty devil. No, thank you, Alfred replies. Tut, 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 the staff sergeant sighs. Yours is a devil's work, and it shan't be tolerated here. This devil won't allow it. You're setting a devilishly dangerous example to the other men. Alfred shrugs his bony shoulders, because he is happy to believe he might inspire the other soldiers to join his campaign for peace. He will think of these words whenever he feels rough, the going gets tough, and he needs to find release. I knew your father, the staff sergeant says as his face turns bright cerise. The belligerent devil was adopted, don't you know? This news rocks Alfred's senses, breaks through his defences, and leaves him totally mute. It leaves him feeling forlorn, tragic, torpid, and torn, whilst he scowls at his chubby brute. I knew your grandpa too, the staff sergeant continues to shoot. He was a devil of a first-class fellow who fought in the New Zealand wars of the 1850s. He was the son of a soldier himself. Well, your grandpa found your father wrapped in a blanket inside a papyrus basket which is nestled amongst some reeds. The little devil was only 3 months old at the time. And your grandpa thought, better the devil you know. He took your father home, raised him as if he was his own son, and turned him into a devilishly fine soldier. But your father's heart was never really committed to the army. Not like your grandpa and those who have the army in their blood. There's no deviltry in that soldier devil. Little devil cared more about people than politics. He was a bit like you, when you come to think of it. The damn degenerate. So don't you think you could play devil's advocate like your father? Couldn't you just make one deal with the devil and put this uniform on? I mean, you can't go on this devil-may-careness forever. The devil won't allow it. Please, Alfred replies to this question, suggestion, and petition, as he questions his entire existence, consistence, and position. Please, please, please. Please? The staff sergeant replies with dismay, as his face turns grey, with his look of leery suspicion. Please? Please? What the devil do you mean? You never said please, Alfred explains, with a grin on his chin, as he tries to civilise this man who is trying to militarise him. Or thank you, sorry, or pardon. Your minions were happy to resort to violence, but they never thought to resort to manners. If they'd only been a bit more courteous, we wouldn't be here now. No, because if you want people to do something for you, you need to be nice to them, show them some respect, and explain your requests. People can't just be beaten into submission like sheep. Unused to anything other than blind obedience and unquestioning allegiance, the staff sergeant replies with uncomfortable expedience. Please be a decent devil, he says as he sways, because he is wary of Alfred's disobedience. Please put a uniform on. I'll be delighted to. I'll be very much obliged. Yes, thank you. You're as pretty as honeysuckle and sweet as honey. Alfred agrees, whilst he shakes his knees. Now he's gotten what he asked for. What the devil? The staff sergeant mutters and splutters as he walks through that door. Why the devil? How the devil? Devil, devil, devil. Alfred rests, recuperates and recovers before he is taken to this long dorm, where he puts on his fifth-hand uniform, which smells of old blood, which smells of old spice, is full of old lice and bits of old mud. His long dormitory hall, which stretches towards that distant wall, is full of his skinny beds. Made from unpolished wood, it's full of a misunderstood, with skinny bodies and skinny heads. Here are these long-faced hustlers, these long-nosed rustlers, and these long-winged flies, these pugnacious punks, these dishevelled drunks, and that brawny delinquent who cries. And sat between these criminals are these two individuals, these conchies with ashen eyes, this clerk with ashen cheeks, and this nurse who speaks while she slaps his ashen thighs. One is a student, he tells his new allies, a Quaker from a family of cotton traders, and one did want to help, to be a volunteer in the good old-fashioned sense of a word. So one joined my friend's ambulance unit as a nurse, travelled to France by oneself, willingly paid for one's own uniform, and was soon in the most frightful place, a stonking big railway hangar, which is full of thousands of unattended patients. Their smell, goodness gracious me, it was just not cricket. One loved one's position at first. It was ace, spiffing, and top drawer. One would swear upon it. We ran 2 hospital ships, 4 hospital trains, and a dozen hospitals. We administered tens of thousands of inoculations that enclosed refugees, without a single penny of government money. It was top-notch, simply smashing, and really rather peachy. Rah, rah, rah. When conscription was introduced, one could have stayed where one was and been exempt from service. But one realised that if one resigned, a conscript would take one's place, and the sick would be cared for like before. Whilst if one stayed on, that conscript would be sent to murder the Germans. Well, darlings, I did not want to be responsible for that. It really was a beastly fudge. One was not at all amused. Farewell bore one to the end of one's tether. But, it must be admitted, one had grown rather baffled by the role itself. Our unit had come under military control, with orders to refit soldiers for war, and one was not inclined to aid or abet their killing. So one resigned one's commission and became a conchi, and fiddle-dee-dee, here one is. Whilst a nurse's uniform fits his formal stance, after wearing it for 2 years in France, the same cannot be said of a clerk. This adolescent has sandpaper skin, a hairy face and a hairy chin, a stubby lip and a stubby smirk. This boy who is fiddling with his pillow, this piece of willow, and this model of a Turk. What about you? I think you've been a peacemaker from the start, he tells Alfred with a jerk. Ghastly thing this war. Before I work myself. Do you work? I bet you work. I worked in colour felt till I lost my job for enlisting. Did your family kick you out? Of course they did. How did the soldiers get you into a uniform? Violence, I bet. They wanted to assert their masculinity. No? Ouch. They tried to push both my legs down the same trouser leg. They're nitwits. I make them dress me every time. It's a pantomime. They don't like it. Not one bit. No one likes a conchi. They beat me too, Alfred says. But I got the staff sergeant to say please in the end. I did feel rather grateful to him for his manners. I felt rather obliged. He said please? No, I don't think he did, the clerk says as he fiddles with his braces, his cases, and his brown shoelaces. Soldiers don't say please. Soldiers don't say thank you. They consider it weak. They do respect for their seniors and scorn for their subordinates. That's all. They don't bother to think. The blights would be fighting for Germany if they'd been born over there, but they just don't bother to think about it. Have you ever seen a soldier do discussion? No, soldiers don't do discussion. The more senior soldier, the more right they are. That's how their minds work. If they have minds. And if they work. Understand? I think so. Understand the army man, and you can beat him. I couldn't have put it better myself, Alfred replies. You sure do make me smile. Don't ever change. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll turn this knowledge into a game. A game? Is it a game? No, it's not a game. Maybe not, Alfred replies whilst the clerk fiddles with his nails, and the nurse holds on to these rails, while Alfred retells one of a good German's old tales. Let me tell you about a disheartened young ox who did all the hard work on his farm. That ox pulled a cart, ploughed the land, and carried his farm's produce to market. He was only ever given a measly portion of grass and straw to eat. Ox lived with Pig, who didn't do any work at all. Please understand, Pig got given a feast every single day. She ate apples, carrots and oats, parsnips, potatoes and plums, cabbages, broccoli and lettuce. So life didn't seem at all fair to Ox. He whinged, whined and whimpered, and complained to anyone who'd listen. Until one day, when she had become as big as an elephant, Pig was taken away. She was killed, quartered, and turned into sausages. Sausages? The clerk laughs. Very good, very good. But is it a game? No. No one likes a conchi. Please understand, Alfred continues. We're like Ox. Army will make us suffer sweat and strain, give us terrible food and conditions, but our hard work in the name of peace will keep us alive. Whilst the soldiers who are enjoying their spoils of war today will be slaughtered like pigs tomorrow. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you. Have you told a story? Yes, the clerk responds. Conchis are oxen, soldiers are pigs. But is it a game? No. No one likes a conchi. Perhaps I got sidetracked, Alfred apologises. I'm just so happy to be amongst like-minded souls. I'm ever so grateful for your company. I really like your style. You're full of youth. It's just that deep down, I don't think soldiers are pigs. We're all humans after all. And if they're going to have their fun trying to militarise us, then we should have our fun trying to civilise them. We should try to turn soldiers into civilians Make them act civilly instead of militarily, and stand for civilization instead of militarization. This is the game. We'll ignore the war makers whenever they don't say please, and we'll correct their rudeness too, and help them to grow into fine oxen, and save them from being turned into sausages. Make them say please? Yes, the clerk agrees. Make them explain their orders? I think so. Would it make them squirm? Yes. Would they like it? No. No one likes a country. Ghastly thing this war. The clerk begins to chuckle, chortle and clap, and Alfred begins to tap, which improves the nurse's disposition. Without a natural inclination for disobedience, he laughs without expedience or any inhibition. By occupying soldiers here, Alfred concludes his tuition, we can distract the war makers from their killing. We can be a real menace. Yes, please. Please, please, please. We can save hundreds of lives. But as he speaks, the clerk cadet enters this room, dressed in his khaki costume, which has buckles which glow like the sun. He wears his khaki backpack, his socks which are black, and his boots which are covered in dung. 0 dark 30. Lights out, ladies, he bellows whilst he waves his gun. Please, Alfred and the clerk both reply as one. Shut your mouths, you toe-rags, the clerk cadet responds with a bark as he turns his room dark, then leaves once he is done. He leaves Alfred to sleep peacefully inside his coarse sack, happy with his new plan of attack, and happy with his new peacemaker regiment, whilst the clerk struggles to snooze and fidgets with his shoes, which are covered in sooty sediment. But troubled by the prospect of nasty punishments and nasty admonishments, the nurse has ghoulish premonitions. He dreams of a 20-foot red-faced beast who has gnashing metal teeth and many evil missions, who beats him down and hangs him near town in all sorts of tangled positions. So Alfred feels inspired, and the clerk feels tired as he stands in his parade gown this morning. But the nurse feels weak, blue, blighted and bleak, with a fiendish sense of forewarning. Attention, devils! The staff sergeant bellows as he bounces on his crate. Please! Alfred and the clerk both berate. Left turn! Staff sergeant commands and demands with horror, hostility and hate. Quick march! Forward! Left, right! Left, right! Left, right! Devil, devil, devil! Most of the conscripts in this non-combatant corps are happy to march around, across this ground, with lifted elbows and lifted knees. The nurse marches without dissent, disagreement or delays, in a stupefied daze, towards those leafy trees. But Alfred and the clerk stand still, and refuse to drill, until the staff sergeant says please. Halt! The staff sergeant shouts and pouts, feeling ill at ease. Please! Alfred and the clerk both tease. Right turn! Squad chin! Stand at ease! Devils! The staff sergeant shouts at his corps, turning around towards him once more, on the other side of his gritty floor. Alfred and the clerk have been cast adrift, so the staff sergeant looks miffed, and a bit like a cartoon villain. His eyes are dilated, his lungs are inflated, and his face has turned vermilion. He clambers down from his stand, and waves his podgy hand, whilst his pedestal begins to squeak. He stumbles, and almost tumbles, whilst his joints begin to creak. You disobedient devils are in the No Courage Corps, he begins to shriek. Not to be trained. Oh no, you're here to be punished. You'll be punished for your deviltry, your deviance, and your insubordination, and you'll be sent to the devil as an example for everyone else here to see. You damn degenerates. This young mercenary, with a tattoo on his fist, grabs Alfred's wrist and bends it behind his back, whilst that old mercenary smirks, grabs the clerk's, and gives his head a savage whack. Mud is squelched and gravel is churned, arms are twisted and mists are turned as his conscience are pushed ahead, as they are pushed past these drums, these guns, and this camouflaged army shed. Before they arrive in this gym, with their odours of sweaty feet and rotten peat, swallow round in this tepid gust, where his balance beams and his trampolines are covered in orange dust, and where his glossy floors and glossy doors are attracting this orange dust. Now you puerile devils shall march, the staff sergeant says with orange-faced disgust. We'll make you deadbeat devils hoof it. We'll make you delinquent devils drill. The devil we will. I'd be happy to march, Alfred says, if only you say please. Please, please, please. Will I march? Yes, the clerk says as he fiddles with his sleeves. I'll march. Why? I don't know. Please just give me one good reason. Then I'll march. Yes, I'll march. I'll march and march again. Ghastly thing this war. Enough of this devil talk, the staff sergeant shouts as his face turns plum, near his gum, and pink around his tongue. Why the devil do you think I let you dirty devils tell me what to say? What a preposterous notion. You damn degenerates will march when I say you'll march, and that's that. Don't you play the devil with me. There'll be the devil to pay. The staff sergeant's chubby legs begin to hobble, his chubby belly begins to wobble, and his chubby hand slices through the air. The young mercenary kicks Alfred in his rib, which causes Alfred to fall into this crib, and into this wobbly chair. He knocks his cabinet over, lands on the white cliffs of Dover, and gets blood in his ruffled hair. Right turn, devils! The staff sergeant begins to blare. And so the young mercenary stamps his welly into Alfred's belly, until Alfred's hip goes crack, and he pushes right through with the sole of his shoe to hold Alfred onto his back. He completes his right turn, but Alfred does not squirm or respond to this attack. Quick march forward, left right, left right, left right, devil, devil, devil. The staff sergeant repeats his decree with his hand on his knee, whilst his face turns pale white. Whilst the young mercenary grips Alfred's ankles inside his fist, tenses, tightens and twists with all of his feeble might, before he cycles Alfred's legs back and forth, south and north, and left and right. Beautiful, beautiful devils, the staff sergeant screams with delight. You see, when I say you'll march, you'll march. The army's full of a devil, and he'll conquer you in the end, you damned degenerates. In support of his statement, the staff sergeant continues his games without abatement, or in an impatient sort of haste. When Alfred refuses to swim in the sea, he is dragged through it with a rope round his knee and a rope around his waist. When he refuses to jump over his vaulting horse, he is thrown over it with force, and a fierce source of distaste, and he slaps in his chin for not saluting whilst he stands here stony faced. The slap covers Alfred's face in dimples, whilst the sea covers his body in pimples, and makes his body shake. The fall dislocates Alfred's shoulders, with pain which smoulders, and makes his body ache. I'll be happy to jump, swim and salute, Alfred says, as his body starts to shake. Please just ask politely, and I'll do it right away. Will I jump? Yes, I'll jump, the clerk says, whilst he fiddles with his swade, the spade, and the rake. Will I swim? Yes, I'll swim. Will I salute? Yes, I'll salute. Jump, swim and salute. Yes, I will. Just explain why I should. No? No one likes a conchi. Enough, devils, the staff sergeant shouts with dread, as his face turns red, whilst he shakes his chubby head. You disrespectful devils shall face court-martials on the morrow, and shall be off to France soon after. Playing the devil should get you shot quick sharpish out in that devilish hell. It sure is a devil of a way to go, you damned degenerates. Alfred shivers as he takes a deep breath, faces his threat of death and his threat of France. Full of fright, he sees the miner who was shot for refusing to fight, as he enters a hazy trance. He sees the alley in which he was once mugged, and the gun which his father once slugged, which makes him feel wary, woozy and weak. He sees the alley in which he could be prosecuted, and the guns with which he could be executed, as images take over his sleep, before he wakes from his fiendish dreams, releases these fiendish screams, and starts to weep. His bruised shoulder still aches, and his bruised body still shakes, as he is escorted by the clerk cadet, his sole legal representative. This man seems tentative, as he enters his office and starts to fret. Speak of the devil, the staff sergeant says, as he sits here dressed in a jumper which is fleecy, with hair which is greasy, and hands which are slightly wet. He sits in front of the paintings which line his walls, this pile of cannonballs, and this pile of books. He sits behind this leather desk, which looks grotesque, and is covered in brassy hooks. The staff sergeant is one of 3 soldiers who are ready for action, led by his proud captain, who is covered in shiny pips. This elderly soldier has a moustache which is pert, and a khaki shirt which is covered in shiny clips. Please sit down, he says, whilst he licks his shiny lips. This is a district court-martial. It have the power to dish out any punishment, up to and including 2 years of hard labour. In my day, it would have the power to hang you. Staff Sergeant, read out the charges, if you please. This defendant stands betwixt the devil and the deep blue sea, if you ask me, the Staff Sergeant says as he reads from a manual of military law, sounding cocksure, stern, straight and sure. This dissident devil is accused of breaching Section 5 of the British Army Act, spreading rumours designed to cause alarm. This disgusting devil is charged with breaching Section 9 of the Act, disobeying lawful orders given to him by a superior officer. Section 40 of the Act, prejudicing good order and military discipline. And Section 18 of the Act, feigning an injury. The damned degenerate. Thank you, Staff Sergeant, the proud captain says whilst he looks up, holding his cup, with his back held perfectly straight. Whilst Alfred smiles at the words thank you, and stamps his shoe, which perplexes this third magistrate. This man who is pie-faced, mixed-raced, and slightly underweight. This legal officer does not have any seniority or any authority, so he calls his superior sir. His feet both tap, and his hands both clap, but he tries not to cause a stir. This court considers you to be a soldier, Private Freeman, and expects you to behave like one, the proud captain continues to slur. This court considers that you have a duty to obey, and this court has a duty itself to break the disobedient and dish out extraordinary punishments to extraordinary criminals. For when you get to my age, you come to know how to swallow people whole. Well, this court is ready to gobble you down, chew you up, and spit you out in little pieces. This court will have its way. Behind this bravado, the proud captain actually feels constricted. because he wishes that Alfred had never been conscripted and was anywhere else but here. He considers conscience to be a plague, who are vain, vulgar and vague, and more alien than any foreign foe he has faced in his long career. A national danger who ignore his laws without regrets, ignore his threats, and fill him with untold fear. "If you're really against all wars," the legal officer tests and contests in a voice which sounds cavalier, "tell us! Yes, sir, no, sir, right, sir, tell us!" "If I tell you, you'll not believe me," Alfred begins to sneer. "Tell us, are you a conscientious objector, an absolutist, an extremist of peace, the devil's own, some sort of stupid devil who's determined to disobey every bequest given to him?" the Staff Sergeant cries, as he looks at his two allies with angry red in his angry eyes. "You're right in saying that I am," Alfred replies. "Well then, we don't need any more testimony. We've heard it from the devil's mouth," the Staff Sergeant says in a self-congratulatory sort of way as he starts to sway and puts his papers away. "This spineless maggot punched me and spat at my men," the Kirk Cadet begins to say. "What devilment," the Staff Sergeant adds with dismay. "How devilish! Such devilry! That's a breach of Section 37 of the British Army Act, striking or ill-treating a soldier. And I heard that he's threatened to destroy the army and rebuild Britain without it in just 3 years," the Kirk Cadet adds. "This one needs to be taken down a peg or two. Yes, sir." Alfred just shrugs, looks at his rugs and that tray of china mugs. "Don't you have anything to say for yourself, deaf devil?" the Staff Sergeant shrugs. "Don't you have any response to this testimony? Aren't you going to give this devil his due? You damned degenerate." Alfred just shrugs, looks at his slugs and that line of busy bugs. "I demand you tell us, in the name of the devil, whether or not you're some sort of peacenik who's hell-bent on destroying the army. Do you or don't you sup with the devil? Do you or don't you oppose all wars?" "So you say," Alfred replies. "Nevertheless, I'll tell you this. After my time here, you'll see civilians rather than soldiers in charge of our nation, and peace rather than bombs in our skies. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you." "What blasphemy! What slander! What deviltry!" the Staff Sergeant starts to crow, boom, bellow and blow, whilst his face turns indigo. "What further need do we have of witness devils? What invention of a devil is this, man? What the devil do you think?" "Death. Death before dishonour," the Kirk Cadet says as he spits at Alfred's face, pushing him past his bookcase and into his fireplace. "Peace didn't save you from that, did it now? If you want to mess with Bess, you'll die like all the rest. Just you wait and see." "Order! Order! Please!" the proud captain growls and howls as he twists his moustache and chomps his jowls. "I've seen some things. I've seen me some things, but I've never come across a blackguard like this. Upon my word, Alfred, my heart and my liver, please don't make a cat's paw out of me. I don't know what you think things are coming to. It's quite clear that you're guilty of grave misconduct and endeavouring to influence your fellow soldiers. It seems to me that you'll do just about anything you can to make a nuisance, and aren't in any way conscientious. 'Twas different in my day. Men were men back then. But, at all events, this court does not have the authority to issue the death sentence. That it should. That it should. It'd be good if a man like you died for the people." As Alfred waits to be sentenced for his stance, to be given a spell in prison or a spell in France, he recalls his hellish premonition. He sees the alley in which he could be prosecuted, the guns with which he could be executed for all his pro-peace missions. "This is your first offence," the proud captain says as he glances at those munitions. "And I still believe you can come good, because when you get to my age, you come to understand the need for patience. So, I'm sentencing you to a month in the cells, on bread and water, under the rule of silence. You'll be released under court-martial and given one final opportunity to obey orders. If you behave like this again, I dare say you'll have the time. The military machine will chew you up, swallow you down, and spit you out in little pieces. You've got 30 days to think it over. So don't say you haven't been warned. This is the one and only opportunity you'll have to conform." Kirk Cadet grips his buckle, tenses his knuckle, and escorts Alfred to the cell, which is damp, dank, and dark, stale, stagnant, and stark, with a putrid sort of smell. Once Alfred adjusts to his fumes, he can see that his is one of 3 rooms, which are chiselled into the cliff face. These rooms line up one behind each other, beneath a rocky cover, and above that army base, with mildew on these walls, and debris in these balls, which waft across this space. Ghosts from the Napoleonic War seem to shake these doors and whistle on these winds, whilst cockroaches scuttle, ants shuttle, and rats behave like kings. You'll be pushing up daisies before long," the Kirk Cadet stings, Just you wait and see. Copy that, sucker. There are soldiers in France sweating blood just to keep you full snug. Don't you think you'll get away with this? Leaves Alfred and a clerk to meet these new prisoners who are barely alive, these thieves who wallow, and those truants who thrive, whilst they all avoid the war, before they meet these other countries who started to freeze, sat here on this grungy floor. One is in this room, and two are further in. They all look feeble, famished, and thin, wearing straight trousers and straight jackets. They are chained, and they are constrained, like sausages in paper packets. Lord bless you, soldier of Christ, this Christian whispers in a hush, as he starts to blush and tries to be chatty. With chubby cheeks, this man would look at home in upper-class boutiques, if only he was not so tatty. His hair is tangled, his shirt is mangled, and his face looks slightly ratty. You'll be safe in here. God is your general, humanity your army, and the Bible your weapon now. Let Jesus into your heart, and you'll never come to any harm. You will never leave or forsake us, will you, my lord? Just like you said in Hebrews 13. That's nice, Alfred says, to strike a chord, with this man who sits on a board whilst he speaks directly to his lord. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're cooler than snow and ice combined. You're not convinced, the Christian pushes. Dear God, this disciple of yours is not convinced. I think your faith is beautiful. It's lit up my day. I really am obliged. I really am very grateful. Holy Mary, the Christian continues, get rid of filthiness and naughtiness, suffer the injustices of this world, and save your soul. That's James 1, and it's exactly what we're doing here. Don't do evil in return for the evil you suffer, but do good to all men. That's Thessalonians 5. It's the plain word of God. It's hell without Jesus, but near the front of the Lord, and you'll be able to stand up to everyone. He'll guide you, just like he guided me when I was thinking about becoming a soldier. I tossed the coin, and through heads beating tails, God told me to become a country. Oh, my lord, you sure do move in mysterious ways. He sure does, Alfred says, as he turns to his apprentice, who is slumped in the entrance next to his plate of dry bread. Here is a skinny sort, who's rather short, in a straight jacket which makes him look red. It makes his hands look black as it pins his shoulders back and draws lines all across his head. I'm an atheist myself, he says as he stares straight ahead, but I'll try not to convert you to it. I didn't need to toss a coin before I became a country either. Resistance is in my blood. My pa was a trade unionist who stood up to the army during a miners' strike of 1910. He told me not to join the soldiers who had tried to crush our community that day, and I listened to him, so I'll never be a soldier. I'll be a piano tuner, and I don't care what anyone else says. Because when you have beliefs, you've got to stick to them. And I do believe, even though we're as mild as curds and cream, we'll be too strong for war makers. I come from a family of peacemakers too, this gangly tax collector begins to say, sat on that clay which is gooey, gravelly and grey. My grandpapa was a peace campaigner during the Boer War. One was bullied for it at school. My pa thinks that wars are a little bit silly too. God only knows what it'd say if they knew I was locked in here like some sort of common criminal with these god-awful creatures. One did try to blend in when they conscripted me, cooking, cleaning and such like. But one was court-martialed for refusing to carry munitions. Well, one really does have to join the line somewhere. You're a good Christian, the Christian whispers. I was the same. I helped out in the kitchens because the chef told me we were feeding the non-combatants. But I saw him give some of our food to soldiers to buff them up for war. So I went on strike, and by the grace of God, here I am. You guided me, Jesus, didn't you? Yeah, you're my hero. Oh, you're a dashed stout-hearted fellow. Gee whiz, you're swell, the apprentice says. But chopping vegetables for soldiers? Fancy that. I haven't lifted a single finger for those blighters since they tore up my exemption to serve in the medical corps. They court-martialed me when I refused to clean the kitchen floor with a toothbrush. But we'll be fine in here together. I know we will. For sure we'll grumble about our crooked deal, but we've got the patience of job, the sand of a gamecock, and humour which tickles me to the bone. We'll have a lark and a jockin' time. We'll stick it to those darn war makers. Yes, we will. Stick it to them? Yes, the clerk adds with a groan, as he fiddles with his stone and his piece of ancient bone. Show 'em we're strong? Yes. They respect strength, but do they respect us? No. No one likes a country. They continue this conversation until they fall asleep on these bits of rock and bits of block which graze their sodden skin. There's barely any food on which to feed. It's far too dark to read, and it's far too cold to sing. The days follow nights before they adjust to the soppy water and the spready crust, whilst they suffer from broken sleep. Before the nurse joins them, covered in phlegm and smelling like a soggy sheep. What happened to you, old chum? Alfred begins to cheep. Please tell us. Please. Well, one was so awfully ashamed of oneself, the nurse whispers as he tries not to eat. One should never have marched. It was a ghastly thing to do. But the army had me on toast. I was wrecked with nerves, without the courage to join in with your marvellous stand. It took some time. One pulled oneself together, and eventually came through. One told those blackguards one is disinclined to acquiesce with your requests, and so one did not march on that day, the next day, or on any other day since. The warmakers did consider one peculiar. Oh, darlings, they dragged one through the gravel for an hour each day, wearing nothing but one's underwear, until one was red raw all over. They kicked and punched one too, but one just thought of you. I must say, you've been rather inspiring. A jolly good show you boys put on out there. Rah, rah, rah. His crunchies soon become accustomed to the lice, locusts, and leeks, as days melt into weeks, whilst they eat stale bread and drink muddy tea. Before they meet this German prisoner of war, who was washed ashore after his ship was torpedoed at sea. I'm here for refusing to kill Germans, the clerk says whilst he fiddles with his knee. Why are we at war? Politicians. The British soldiers would be fighting for Germany if they'd been born over there. You'd be fighting for Britain if you'd been born here. Are you Germans any different to us? No, we're all the same. We're all human. Ghastly thing, this war. You don't think this is a good conflict? A German prisoner asks as he wipes away this dust. No such thing as a good conflict, the clerk replies as he fiddles with his sock, this rock, and this rust. No such thing as a bad peace. Why are you fighting? Because you've never considered not fighting. Stop. Become a country. No one likes a country. Hoo hoo hoo. Hee hee hee. Hee 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 hee. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. The German prisoner laughs. Very good. Very good. Yeah, I'll oppose the war like you, I think, if I can. Very good. Very good. These noisy chuckles encourage the Kirk cadet to use his bony knuckles to beat the silence back into his cells. But despite this treatment, and despite his diet, Alfred enjoys the quiet during these soundless spells. Because his life has been so fevered, frenzied, frenetic, so busy and so energetic every day up till now, that Alfred appreciates this absence of prattle, tittle-tattle, and powwow. He sits near his hairy flies, closes his eyes, and exists in peaceful contemplation. He feels like a king as he unites with everything in the whole of earthly creation. His breath travels from bronchiole to bronchi to larynx, up through his pharynx, all the way out through his nose. He becomes calm in each ankle, armpit, and arm as he frees his fingers and frees his toes. Liberate your mind, Alfie, his mentor once told him with a grin whilst he wore his German clothes. Dear boy, you cannot become trapped by anger, jealousy, fear, or desire. You must center yourself, yeah? You must become still in order to see beyond perceptions and sensations. So Alfred practices until he surpasses the good German's abilities, despite the surrounding hostilities, and despite those noisy geese. He becomes a little bit introspective and a little bit reflective, but achieves some inner peace. Good God, what are you doing, Alfred? The Christian asks, aghast, because he thinks that his friend might be going insane. Being, Alfred replies, with peace in his eyes, because he considers his behaviour to be mundane. Being? The Christian questions again. Bless your heart, we're all being. That doesn't explain why you're sat cross-legged on the floor, closing your eyes for hours on end. No, Alfred tries to explain. Please, most of us are too busy trying to do things, actions and whatnot, to simply be. My lord, pray whatever do you mean? I think you're suffering from tooth decay and need to brush up on your Bible. God wants us to act first, don't you, my lord? Kindness can make us kind, and love can make us loving, Alfred admits. It's called involution and evolution, involving yourself in actions in order to evolve your being. But your actions never become your being. No thank you. There's always a divide. Please let me tell you a story to explain. It's about a busy businessman who's always doing this or that, buying and selling, hiring and firing, leading and lecturing. All day, every day, he was always on the go. Until he looked into a mirror one morning and realised that the person he saw wasn't actually himself. It was just a pale reflection of his body's image. The businessman realised that his actions, like the image in the mirror, weren't his real self either. They were just a pale reflection of his inner being. So he spent a weekend in the countryside. He didn't buy or sell, hire or fire, lead or lecture at all. He didn't do a single thing. And because he refrained from action, the phony reflection of himself faded away. His actions could no longer define him. For the first time in his life, he was able to see himself for who he really was. He saw his real being, and he was ever so grateful. He was very much obliged. Why now, though? the Christian asked. Why here? Being in prison has set me free, I suppose, Alfred laughed. I should be grateful for it, really. Perhaps it was why you were arrested. God does everything for a reason. Don't you, my lord? When you close a window, you open a door. Yes, you will deliver us. You will save us from the hands of the wicked and deliver us from the grasp of the cruel. Just like you said you would in Jeremiah 15. That's nice, Alfred nods. Being arrested has certainly given me the time to think. I'm grateful for that. I've been thinking about our defence of Belgium, our naval blockade, and our African campaigns. Actions, actions, actions. Acts of war. But please understand, actions which originate from the very nature of our nation, the very essence of our nation, and the very being of our nation. A nation who, after involvement in centuries of war, has evolved into a warring nation. A nation with an innate propensity to fight. Please understand, this war won't end in peace. No, no, no. The nations fighting today will fight again tomorrow, like a shark returning to an old hunting ground, unable to resist the lure of fresh blood. It's in their very nature. We'll return to the same battlefields, shoot the same soldiers, and fight the same nations again. Give it 20 years. You'll see. And then we'll turn our allies into foes, and fight them with new allies by our side. Then we'll turn our new allies into foes, and fight them too. It's a never-ending cycle. We're always fighting with Germany, Ireland and France, Iraq, Palestine and Afghanistan. It's not about actions, or whether an individual war is right or wrong. It's a matter of being. It's become our nation's nature to fight, 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 war, 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 and kill, kill, kill. Such that if an enemy didn't exist for us to fight, we'll be forced to invent one. So, the Christian says, in order to bring about peace, we must become peace. Through involution and evolution, Alpha concurs, through acting peacefully and becoming peaceful. The peace cannot exist in actions alone. No, no, no. No, thank you. It must be part of our very being. Alfred begins to smile as he crosses his legs in the Eastern style and closes his peaceful eyes. The Christian joins in and begins to grin as he tries to improvise. After a few more days, the apprentice has his straitjacket replaced with a shawl, so he begins to engrave his wool with his piece of shiny rock, his piece of crumbly stone, crumbly bone, and crumbly block. The tax collector draws images of his lord, like, don't live by the sword, and men should brothers be. Whilst the apprentice draws on the store, writes, fight the class war, and peace and harmony. Before the lanky cadet enters his room with force, and limps like an overworked horse, as he carries this milky brew. He approaches a nurse, who starts to converse, before he removes the soldier's shoe. The nurse listens to the lanky cadet's description, gives him a medical prescription, and starts to clean his shin. The nurse stitches these ruts, and bandages these cuts, which make the soldier grin. Do be a doll, old bean, he asks the next time the lanky cadet walks in. Do help one to send a letter home to one's ma and pa. I fear they will be awfully worried. So a few days later, the lanky cadet brings his brown paper, which he smuggles past that guard, who is distracted by the schoon and that military platoon, which is marching across that yard. There are 24 of us in 3 small cells, the nurse writes on his card, including 5 other conties who are also in irons for refusing to drill. But, despite all the beatings and threats, we're still standing strong. Please do everything you can to let the public know. I'll send it at once, Patch, the lanky cadet neighs and brays whilst he paws his feet and sways. I'll charge you the price of a pint if you ever want any help again. The other steeds in here wouldn't help you for all the money in the world, but I like you, Blaze. I think you're all right. Alfred starts to jiggle, grin, gurgle and giggle, because he loves this old-fashioned British enterprise, which reminds me of British hawkers and British pavement walkers who sell papers, pasties and pies. And he laughs at this black-eyed and red-nosed Scot, who is covered in green snot, which ships down his purple head. This man avoids the war in the East by being abusive whenever he is released, in order to be locked in here instead. I admire you, laddies, he sloshes with his arms outspread. You're cowards, but you are spoken cowards, and that's my favourite kind of cowards. The Scot's words filled Alfred with a joyous sort of cheer as he is removed from here and paraded for his military base, where he is deafened by the soldiers who are learning to fight, dazzled by this natural light, and overwhelmed by this open space. Alfred's ears are bombarded by this orchestra of firing guns, these steely marchers with steely drums, and this officer with a hairy chest. Before he's weighed and has his eyes prized open by this optician's aid during an official sight test. But Alfred refuses to dig the foundations for dormitory floors, wash his cutlery here indoors, or tidy the clothes in his munition stores. Please understand, he explains as he stands near his chest of drawers. Please, please, please. The dormitory will house soldiers before they fight. This cutlery will be used to feed them up to kill, and his uniforms will cover them in battle. Build this rifle range now, you peace crank, the Kirk cadet cries. No thank you. It'll be used to train soldiers to kill, Alpha replies. Clean this bus now, you hiney lover. No thank you. It'll be used to take soldiers to war. Load these supplies now, you pacifist skunk. No thank you. They'll be used to fuel the murder. If you don't do what I say, right here, right now, right away. The Kirk cadet continues to moan and groan with a stench of cheap cologne. You'll be sent to France to lay barbed wire in no man's land, where Joe will shoot you down before you know it. And if you refuse to follow orders out there, you'll be shot by a firing squad. Either way, you'll be coming home in a body bag. So I suggest you suck up whatever misplaced pride is fueling your stubbornness and behave responsibly for once. For your good, not for mine. Understand? Because a pint of sweat says a gallon of blood. And those are your only options now. Blood or sweat, life or death, be cured or be killed. It's the army way. Just you wait and see. Alfred had seen the alley in which he was once mugged, and the gun which his father once slugged every time he had fallen asleep. He had seen the alley in which he could be prosecuted, and the guns with which he could be executed, which had made him want to weep. But not any more. Not like before. Alfred is now strong, steady, and sure. He does not speak, shriek, or shout. He begins to grin, breathes in, and breathes out. His breath travels from bronchiole to bronchi to larynx, up through his pharynx, and all the way out through his nose. He follows his breathing exercise and starts to rise, as he frees his fingers and frees his toes, before he's thrown back into his cell, where he's left to dwell, dressed in his dirty clothes. He's beaten, bullied, and burned, released, reprimanded, and returned, taken from prison, and then put straight back. But like when the suffragists experience this cat-and-mouse treatment, he does not lament or start to crack. He gets imprisoned when he refuses to salute, looks astute, and remains silent. When he refuses to march, look parched, and remains not violent. But this pantomime cannot last. The time for games has passed, and this charade has gotten old. So Alfred is shown into this office, which is full of wooden boards, hanging cords, and fungal mould. Please take a seat, Alfred, the proud captain says, with manners which put Alfred at ease, before he starts to sneeze because of his latest cold. Achoo! Bless you. Yes, well then, I've been bestowed with instructions to cancel your district court-martial, a bond which, not to mince matters, galls both of us diabolically. Your non-combatant corps is being sent to France. Such things didn't happen when I was your age, but these are the times we're living in. For I'm inclined to believe that you don't quite understand what this means, Private Freeman. In France, you'll be under active service conditions. Playing a hanky-panky jackass out there should get you shot quick sharpish. Your friends in Parliament shan't be able to do anything to help you. Have I made myself clear? Very clear, thank you. Our politicians, elected to protect our people, have been usurped. Your army is staging a coup d'etat, Alfred says sarcastically. Upon my senses, you do talk lofty, the proud captain replies bombastically. People would have had the gall to parley with their betters like that in my day. Really, Alfred, pull yourself together. Now, please take your pay, submit a list of your next of kin, and write your will in the army pay book. Pick yourself tidy, and off you go. Alfred is able to rise above his threat, but he finds his comrades covered in sweat, with a variety of diverse intentions. Some are seeking a fight, some are seeking flight, and some are seeking divine interventions. The nurse is unable to speak through his wobbly lips as he rocks away on his wobbly hips, quivers, quavers, and quakes, whilst the tax collector covers himself in ashes, plucks his eyelashes, shivers, shudders, and shakes. Are we just going to let them kill us? No, the clerk says as he ups the stakes. Stand up for our rights? Yes. Stick it to 'em? Yes. Take 'em down? Yes. Does anyone like a conchi? No. No one likes a conchi. Bless you, the Christian replies. But it's no good fighting with soldiers with our fists. They are well trained in violence, and so we wouldn't stand a chance. As Galatians 5 says, if we bite and devour each other, we'll all be destroyed. If you give the devil an inch, he'll become your ruler. No, we should hang out with Jesus. He hung for us after all. We should use our spiritual force to overcome the war makers of evil with good. We should let the army take us anywhere, do anything to us, at any time, just so long as we don't succumb to their tyranny. Because they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom. My lord, you will release us prisoners, give good news for the poor, and set the oppressed free, just like you said you would in Luke 4. You'll let them shoot us? We're no good dead, the clerk says, as he fills with his head this bread and this lead. Ghastly thing this war. Do good, do nothing. Overcome them, they'll overcome us. No, 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 Alfred interjects. We must be prepared to face the bullets for this cause. Please understand, if soldiers are prepared to die for their beliefs, then we must be prepared to die for our beliefs as well. We must be as reckless as war makers in order to prove that we're not just cowards. It's the only way we'll win the hearts and minds of the people in our nation. It's the only way we'll convert the British people to peace. Please, let's not fight the soldiers or lower ourselves to their level. Let's refute them, resist them, and repel them. We won't give them a list of our next of kin, take a wage, or write our wills. We won't fight like them, act like them, or be like them. We'll form a peace unit, a part of a peace army, on a crusade for peace, peace, peace. I'd be ever so grateful if you join me. I'd be very much obliged. Peace unit, the tax collector cries as he overcomes his fear. Peace unit, Alfred replies as he smiles from ear to ear. Peace unit, the other conchies cheer. Alfred gets slapped in his eye socket, has his wages shoved into his pocket, and then throws it all away. For his comrades stare at those hills, refuse to submit their wills, and ignore what the soldiers say, whilst they use the paper they are given to write letters about being in prison, which they then hide out of the way. Let's get a move on, the Kirk cadet begins to say. Let's go. Only if you push me first, the apprentice replies without hesitation, procrastination, or delay. You wouldn't want anyone to think we'd march of our own accord. So the apprentice is pushed through the sludge, which is brown, and the debris, which is black, whilst Alfred is given his old backpack, which hangs from his bony shoulders. A figure with 8 handcuffs pin his arms behind his spine as he walks past this mine, which is surrounded by mossy boulders. The peace unit walk past these neatly trimmed trees, which flutter in this breeze, which is full of delicious fresh air. As these birds begin to sing, and those bees begin to sting, near this rabbit and near that hare. They walk through pink fields which are full of flies, and see these porcelain skies, which turn leaves from green to yellow. They walk down these soppy roads, and see these croaking toads, who goad that elderly fellow. They walk past villages which are full of freshly cut hay, horses which neigh, apple trees, and blackberry hedges, these mossy church spires, those burning fires, and that row of painted ledges. These fields seem soundless, the sky seems boundless, and those rillets all seem to sliver, as the peace unit walk past its exposed pipe, this muddy dike, and that overflowing river. As they cross this flooded floor, separated from their non-combatant corps, who've been quarantined with the measles. As they sing to these tunnelling moles, these hiding voles, and that pack of skinny weasels. As they sing, I didn't raise my boy to be a soldier, for the conchies without religions, trusting every day, for the Christians, and songs for peace. As they sing songs from the Labour songbook, for the socialists, God Save the King, for the nationalists, and songs for wars to cease. And after a couple more hours, they pass these weather-beaten towers, with feet which are covered in blisters, before they enter this station which is full of servicemen, firemen, sentries, servants, and sisters, where they see these guards whistling at youths, and hanging from booths, whilst they check tickets, tokens, and tracts, whilst these porters run this way and that, and stop to chat, before they move parcels, packets, and packs, before coal shovers change trains, and carry grains, using these Hessian sacks. I'll watch out for them and their soldiers returning home from leave, the ticket inspector says as he adjusts his cotton slacks. Bunch of drunkards, the lot of them. You take care of yourselves. And the supervisor is considerate too, as he removes his handcuffs without much ado, and puts them down by his shoe. Please put them on again later, Alfred says, whilst he sits on this wooden pew. Please, 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 so it's clear that we're not being taken by force. Okay, the supervisor replies, with surprise and bemusement in both of his eyes. Whilst his train starts to rumble with its gentle vibration, Alfred looks out of this busy train station, which is totally chock-a-block. He sees his children who are going to the seaside, this grieving mother who is teary-eyed, and this dangling Gothic clock. He sees his salty sailor, this smartly dressed tailor, and this sign painter who carries his kit, this cloth merchant, this servant, and this miner who's been down a pit. Thank the heavens! That's our girl! Alfred shouts through his slit. She was at one of my pro-peace talks. Oh yes! Yes! Thank you! She nodded along as I spoke. And so he rings this bell, starts to yell, and shouts out as well. Hey! Please! Friend! But this majestic old steam train shouts choo-choo, starts to clunk, cackle and coo, wail, whoop and whistle, with the clickety-clicks of changing tracks, the cluckety-clucks of engine jacks, and coupling rods which bristle. Comrade, 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 Alfred yowls. Sister, 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 he growls. Here, 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 he howls. This disciple, who is dressed in a fully white shirt and a fully white skirt, hears Alfred's cacophonous voice. So her arms start to thrash and her legs start to dash, more out of instinct than out of choice. She jinks between these vending machines, these jam-packed canteens, and these Boer War survivors, these telegraphers, these stenographers, and this group of chatty train drivers. But this rickety old steam chain starts to hoot and starts to strain as it starts to pull away. Alfred's disciple is already at full speed, on a stampede, which makes her shimmy, sidestep, and sway. Please give me your letters, Alfred begins to say. Please, please, please. He takes the letters which his friends just wrote and removes his own notes while his heart begins to pound, while his disciple runs along and seems sturdy, steady, and strong as she makes up all this ground. As his crowd thins out, her lips pout and her bottom wriggles around. But this train begins to accelerate, past its grille, gantry and gates, and it flexes its metal muscle. It builds up a head of steam, passes this platform-ending beam, starts to clunk and starts to rustle. What on earth do you think you're doing? The escort questions with angry indignation and pent-up frustration as he tries to hold Alfred back. But Alfred escapes from his grasp and his crow-like clasp to throw his letters down near that track. Thank you for asking, he says in response to this attack. Your teeth are as white as clouds and your eyes are as blue as waterfalls. Well, I'm just making sure that people know where we're being taken. That's all. Thanking you. Alfred cannot see if his disciple has caught any report, any packet of any sort, or any of their cards, because his train makes a deafening blast and starts to move fast past that row of backyards. It pulls him across these viaducts which are held by giant arches, these squadrons who are embarking on military marches, and those brown streets which are full of brown rain, these brown fields which are full of brown barns, this endless series of shimmering tarns, and this animal-covered plain. In a state of constant vibration, the steam train rests at every single station to catch its smoky breath. Soldiers board at these stations, fresh from their vacations and set for disputes, dogfights and death. They sit near this pensioner with a golden tooth who is sprawled across his third-class booth without any sort of grace. This couple who kiss in the corridor, this blind spinster with a Labrador, and this teenager who wears a brace. This overbearing mother with a pink baby she loves to smother and a smirk on her painted face, and this lonesome woman who sits on a cushion as she stares into empty space. And after many more hours, which are full of sleet, slush and showers, the peace unit board this boat. They pass this box of salmon, this soggy cannon, and that soggy coat. Unused to being away from solid ground, the apprentice stumbles around, with legs which turn to jelly. He trips over his feet, over his seat, and over this bonehead's belly. Jackass! This bonehead yaps. Jerk! This blockhead raps. Jagwhacker! This belligerent screams, as he wakes from his garish dreams, scared of a life full of billy beef, scared of a life full of blasting shells, living hells, and those ways which are causing him grief. He pees in his hat, chews his cravat, and gets drunk in search of relief. England disappears from view. The sun disappears too, and the sky turns completely grey. It turns this dour shade, whilst the smiles all fade, and the singing all goes away. This is the peace unit's new world. It is cold, cramped, caligious, and confused. They are cut off from their nation, each relation, and each piece of the news. The news that Russia has invaded Armenia with marching bands, Bulgaria has invaded Macedonian lands, and Hungary has fallen to Romania. The news that food prices have increased by 60% in just 2 years, which has filled the Brits with fears, and Hungary sort of mania. The news that 19,000 British soldiers were slaughtered by machine gun fire in a boggy mire on just one horrendous day. Because life is cheap, now conscription can herd people like sheep, and replace the dead with men who did not want to enter the fray. And the news of the nurse's first letter, which was carried beneath the lanky cadet sweater before it was put on a postal express, before it was passed to a professor from the nurse's degree, the relation of a esteemed MP who ran to Parliament in distress, where he saw the Prime Minister who told that his army was being sinister and making a real mess. Abominable, the Prime Minister cried as he clutched his gown. Abominable, he cried as he paced up and down. Abominable, he cried with a frown. For in spite of the politicians who resisted, the Prime Minister had personally insisted on exemptions to avoid such abuses, so this news worried him and put his head in a spin as he ignored his aides' excuses. The army will hear nothing of politics from me, he said as he drank some juices, and in return I expect to hear nothing of politics from the army. Abominable. But Alfred is completely unaware of this communication. the professor's conversation, and the aide's vociferous debate. He is only aware of this warrant officer's rocking head, his moustache, which is red, and his hair, which is unnaturally straight. "Welcome to France, merman," he yells, whilst his lungs inflate. "Welcome to death and glory, gremlins. Welcome to war. Bish, bash, bosh." Alfred stands somewhat informally and holds himself normally as he looks at that new train line, as he inhales the smell of garlic, gunfire and grass, brie, battles and brass, waffles, weapons and wine. "Well, well, well," the warrant officer continues to whine. "I'd heard of conscientious objectors, like I'd heard of giants, goblins and ghosts, but I never believed that you monsters were real. Not till now. Well, you may have your convictions, but I've got my convictions too. I've got a conviction that I can make you fairies work, make you fawns sweat, and make you fiends crack. Bish, bash, bosh." The warrant officer's head nodding, finger pointing, and bish, bash, boshism have no bounds. His feet bish as they stomp around, bash the ground, and bosh with his thunderous sounds, as he marches the peace unit up with a bish, bash, bosh, before he marches them down through his puddles with slosh, sending water everywhere. When they are neither up nor down, they pass his villager who's been to town, who gives them some scrumpy to share. "Take a little for your stomach," she says as she eats his juicy pear, "and take some more for your muscles, mes amis. C'est très bon." Even the tax collector, who is normally a teetotaler, drinks some of his pernicious brew. He looks bugged, bothered and brown as he drinks it down, and becomes light-headed too, before the clerk starts to flee, starts to pee, and starts to spew. "Well, well, well, did I say you could stop marching, Gollum?" the warrant officer shouts with a noisy sort of bish, as he bashes the clerk with anguish and boshes his stubbly head. The clerk pants for breath as he zips up his fly near that passer-by, wooden fence and wooden shed, before a peace unit walk past his church with a wooden door, these sleeping pensioners who start to snore, this maid who starts to mop, these peacocks who start to preen, this rustic village green, and this rustic village shop. They reach his port-side encampment, where they walk past the ill, injured and incompetent, who work hard and gamble even harder. His southerner fashes a lighter from an empty shell, whilst his northerner stares at a gangly bell, without much appetite, attachment, or ardour. They pass these crooks with exposed nipples, these cripples, and this tangled barbed wire, and they enter their new room, after they pass this tomb, and that rather swampy mire. Full of these bedspreads, blinds, blankets, and beds, this place is nicer than the cell they were locked in before, though it is spoilt by the smashed windows, which drip glass onto his pillows and all over this concrete floor. "The soldiers discovered we're conscious last night," this skew-whiff witchmaker explains with a roar. "They threw us their stones to welcome us on board." With a skew-whiff here, the watchmaker is one of 7 new conscious in here, who have been classed as a threat to security. The socialist, schoolmaster and engineer all seem to be sincere, with Alfred's sort of purity, but this athlete, agitator and coward seem far less empowered, without Alfred's sort of maturity. "We were shoved up against the wall and had blanks fired against us, didn't we?" the schoolmaster says, as he looks both ways and gives the socialist a friendly gaze. "It was as if we were modern-day St. Sebastians being shot at by Roman archers for clinging to our beliefs." "It was a bloody capitalist what done it," the socialist starts to speak, whilst his bed starts to creak, with legs which wobble and springs which squeak. "They're balmy, the whole lot of them. God gives them a power like the motor car, and what do? They go careering round in goggles, killing children. Now the blighters want to kill us." "They tore clumps out of my hair," the engineer adds with a nervous grin, as he tilts his head to show his skin and the scar which covers his chin. "It hurts something chronic. Really, whatever have I done to deserve this? Have I been cruel to animals? Have I sinned in a past life? Have I dishonoured my parents? Oh my, oh my, oh my. I've been whipped and rocked and socked, but I'll get those suckers back. They don't know who they're messing with," the hairy agitator competes as he punches his sheets and jumps on his seats. "Just you let me at 'em. I'll kill the British King. I'll kill the Kaiser. I'll kill 'em all." "They play hardball with me," the muscled athlete tweets. "They tied my ankles to my wrists behind my back and left me until I was all struck out. It was par for a course in my barracks." "I was made to eat my own manure," the cow cries and sighs with rainy tears in his cloudy eyes. "No one gave me a bucket, so I relieved myself in a corner, and a soldier rubbed my face in it. I suppose he had to, hadn't he?" "You win," the watchmaker replies. "I thought they treated me badly when they locked me in a cubbyhole, which they rocked every hour to deprive me of sleep. But your story beats mine hand down. Anyway," the schoolmaster resumes, "we were thrown together in a medieval castle, which hadn't been used since the days of Viking invasions and Norman conquest. And we were packed off to France, weren't we? Yeah, I sucked it to the war makers when they made us march, the agitator boasts. I said, let me at 'em, I'll splat 'em, I'll rock 'em, and I'll sock 'em. Peace, power! And I didn't move an inch. But it didn't do you any good, did it? The schoolmaster interjects. They dragged you by your feet, didn't they? It was just like when Ganymede was punished for his homosexuality, and they made the rest of us march with bag straps around our windpipes. That's awful, Alfred says. We formed a peace unit, a part of a peace army, and we launched a crusade for peace, peace, peace. I'll enlist in that, the watchmaker chimes as he stands near the store. All for one and one for all. I'd like the cut of your jib, the athlete starts to roar. All for one and one for all. All for one and one for all, the other crunches implore. All for one and one for all, the socialist says once more. Us workers should unite. It's a capitalist war made by the capitalists and fought by us workers. The capitalists want to spin it out until we're too weak to fight back. But we won't let that happen. No way. The revolution starts here. So these outcasts unite, with delirium, delectation and delight, which makes them feel ballsy, brilliant and bright. We didn't resist our deportation at all, Alfred admits as he stands here, upright. Please understand, we thought we could be more of a nuisance out here in France, a bit like the donkey in the well. Donkey in the well? The schoolmaster asks, feeling confused, baffled, bewildered and bemused. Like the donkey ridden by the Greek god Dionysus, the Hindu god Kalaratri, or Jesus Christ our Lord? Maybe, Alfred replies. It's a story from a long time ago, when a donkey tripped hoof over heel and heel over hoof. That silly old thing fell down a deep well. When Donkey didn't return home that night, his master began to worry, so he launched a search to bring Donkey back within his ranks. And, after many hours, found Donkey neighing and braying, whinging and whining, and moaning and groaning, but he was unable to move Donkey from his well. It was just too deep. Please understand, Donkey was so old that his master didn't think he was worth saving. So his master recruited some villagers, who helped him to shovel dirt into that well. They tried to bury Donkey alive. But Donkey just shrugged the dirt off his back, stamped it down, and created a hard floor beneath his hooves. And as the well filled up with debris, Donkey was lifted up. He gave his master a nonchalant glance, whinnied, and walked free. I bet he was rather grateful in the end. I bet he felt rather obliged. Some of his conchies listen politely, some of them listen lightly, and some of them start to clap. 12 disciples face Alfred, 24 eyes stare at his head, and 48 limbs start to flap. So, the schoolmaster starts to yap, the master is like the army officers who are trying to bury our beliefs alive. The villagers are the British soldiers, the master's willing accomplices, like the Egyptians who enslaved the Jews on behalf of the pharaohs. And we're like Donkey, aren't we? We're the innocent victims who are suffering today in order to win our freedom tomorrow. You've got it, Alfred replies as he stamps down with his boots, and as he slaps, smiles and salutes, howls, hollers and hoots. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really am grateful to be in your presence. I like you more than homemade apple pies. We allowed the army to deport us because it was like having dirt poured over our heads. Our passive resistance in France will lift us up, until the war makers can't help realise that we're not beneath them. In the heat of a battle, against all the odds, we'll achieve a greater victory out here. We'll win our freedom. We'll win freedom for the whole of humankind. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you. Passive resistance, the Christian adds. Lord bless you. It's just like when you, Jesus, were put on trial. Offer no resistance to anyone evil, you said in Matthew 5. And we're listening. But war makers order us to cook, we'll refuse. If they order us to clean, we'll refuse. And if they order us to march, we'll refuse as well. But we won't lash out, we won't strike back, and we won't fight them. We'll never sink to their level. We'll let you into our hearts, Jesus. We'll let you guide our lives, and we'll let you save our souls. The peace unit talks for a few more hours before they are ordered to march past these flowers, which are planted along this groove. But as their company march away towards that golden hay, they stand still and refuse to move. Well, 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 I'll fine you your wages, you gorgons. Bish, bash, bosh. The warrant officer shouts across his deck as his head bobs away on his springy neck, which shakes his khaki gown. We're already refusing to take a penny, sucker. Peace, power, the agitator shouts whilst he starts to frown. The poor don't profit from war anyway, the socialist shouts whilst he bobs up and down. Only the rich profit from war. The poor pay for it with their lives. You can keep your money. We can't be bought. This is a victory which is followed once more, as so often before, by a counterattack from the military machine, which tries to destroy the peace unit's solidarity with military barbarity when it divides these 13. But the apprentice refuses to paint a door, The agitator refuses to use a saw, and the athlete refuses to mop. The engineer cleans some handles and carries some candles, but the clerk gets him to stop. Alfred is taken to his camp's boundary and locked inside his foundry, where injured soldiers are making fixings for a train line. They then divide and drill, flex, forge and fill, sand, soldier and shine. By his side is this red-headed, bow-legged and fear-embedded sort of a wimpish coward. Unlike his fellow conchies, this boy has knocking knees and is totally unempowered. He feels queasy, uneasy and devoured. This boy is scared of flying, dentists, diseases and dying, doctors, deformity and drakes. He is scared of outsiders, sheep, swans and spiders, slugs, scorpions and snakes. I should probably be in the non-combatant corps, I suppose, he says as he shakes. But in a moment of madness, I refused to polish some pebbles and they brought me here with you guys. It was most out of character. I mean, you must understand that I shared a room with my 3 brothers as a child because I was too scared to sleep on my own. I've always feared the police, and I'm afraid of hospitals, exams, and crowds. They all give me the heebie-jeebies. Even speaking makes the coward shake, quiver, quaver, and quake, so he stumbles towards his spade, before the warrant officer shouts as loudly as he can, as if his volume makes him a man, and justifies his tirade. Stand to attention when I address you, you yetis! Bish, bash, bosh! The coward stands up to salute, turns white and turns mute, because he feels weak without his other comrades, whilst Alfred stands still, ignores this man's will, and ignores his childish charades. So the warrant officer bishes Alfred's legs out straight, bashes Alfred's arms with all his weight, and boshes Alfred's bony back. He makes the coward sort some nails into packets, and sands some brackets, before he storms down that stony track. They can't make you do that, Alfred says, as he leans against his rack. The rest of the peace unit will be refusing orders, like you did before. Please stop. Please, please, please. Do it for them. I suppose, I guess, the coward says as he gazes around. I'll follow orders if I were you, this zealous soldier starts to expound. The other conchies who've come this way all done got conformed, done got hard labour, or done got shot. There's a list in the officer's canteen of their fates, death or conformity. You kiddies will be next. Don't be listening to that idiot, this sympathetic soldier, who is covered in cement, with an earthly scent, says in an Irish accent. I expect they'll be taking you boys to a frontline camp if they want to shoot you. To be sure. They haven't ever shot anyone here. The truth of the matter is, no one knows what they do to you. Hungarians to be slaughtering Nazarenes for refusing to fight. The Russians to be sending conchies to the front with bayonets tied round their neck. And the Americans to be thinking of imprisoning peaceniks for 30 years. So they are. We wouldn't want that to befall you, especially when you don't even have to fight. The work us gummy dagout hiders are doing, building train checks here in the rear, has never got anyone killed. There's really no need to act the maggot or be a cod. It's only you I'll be thinking of. This boy, who is still in his teens, shares his bovril, bread and beans, and seems genuinely concerned for Alfred's well-being. So the coward nods his ginger head, with his arms outspread, as if he is agreeing. I'm only here to stand up for the small nations of Europe, the Belgians and the Serbias, who aren't so different to Ireland, and because it could help us win our independence back from you blackguarding Brits. I couldn't join the firing squad myself, but Jesus! I'd sooner shoot the officer who's in charge, so I would. I came here to fight the Germans, not to be murdering you guys. To be sure. Similar scenes, situations and sentiments, with different actors from different regiments, repeat themselves each day. They take place in this prison cell, in this workshop as well, and in this field which is full of hay. Alfred does not work, nor do the watchmaker, schoolmaster or clerk, but the coward does give in. There are some admonishments, some punishments, and some war makers who make a din. The engineer is told, "You'll be killed." The athlete that, "Your blood will be spilled." And the nurse that, "Your protest will end in disaster." This preachy soldier talks to the Christian and gets this priest to visit him, who the Christian tells, no minister is greater than his master. Before the socialist gets hit, the agitator gets bit, and the apprentice gets covered in plaster. Fast forward through this show reel at high speed, pause, rewind and replay each generous deed, and some highlights will come into view. This Frenchman tries to prostitute his sister without success. This officer begins to stress, and this maid brings some peaches too. The casual approach towards sex seems to abound in the army-sanctioned brothels which are all around, where soldiers can sleep with a whore, where death-bound virgins can have a time of their lives, husbands can cheat on their wives, and soldiers can escape from the war. "You should come and check them out, Freddie, my lad," the sympathetic soldier says as they enter the store. "The crowds like those at a footy match, and the rush to get in is a great crack. Girlies display themselves in dainty lingerie, approach you in the net, and take you upstairs for a franc. It's a grand show, so it is. Lasses with big titties, little titties, and bouncy titties. There are ones with legs which could choke you, and ones who are shaven all over. It's ever so kind of you to offer, Alpha replies. You're a groovy dude. You have a cherries on my fruit salad. Yum. But it's really not our thing. Us countries are on a moral crusade, so have to be whiter and white. And anyway, I expect all the girls are full of diseases. To be sure. The bastards with syphilis to be charging the most. Each dose is worth 30 days away from the trenches, so it is. Sympathetic soldier sings. They're going to do that in Britain, Alfred rings. I mean, our government, thanks to Dora, won't even allow you to possess a pigeon without a permit these days. Not without arresting you for it. They'd arrest anyone who gave a soldier a disease without thinking about it twice. This proves to be the peace unit's last ever opportunity to go out, before the warrant officer starts to shout and starts to fume. He adjusts his collar, starts to holler, and puts a curfew on the peace unit's room. Listen up, you dirty bunch of trolls, he shouts with his look of doom. I made you ogres one promise when you arrived. I promised that you'd work, and by God you'll work. Maybe not here, maybe not now, but mark my words, you manticores will comply. Because we turn lions into house cats here, we turn wolves into puppies, and we turn sharks into goldfish too. Bish bash bosh. Every one of you dragons will be domesticated. Well. Tomorrow you'll be taken to a frontline camp. If you disobey orders there, you'll be shot. Think about that, you dwarves, you wargs, werewolves and witches. Bish bash bosh. The warrant officer bishes his way across his grubby floor, boshes his way through that grubby door, and bashes his way outside. The coward quakes, the agitator shakes, and the nurse looks horrified. Alfred breathes in and breathes out, to escape his distress, discomfort and doubt, and to overcome all of his woes. Breath travels from bronchiole to bronchi to larynx, up through his pharynx, and all the way out through his nose. Before the sympathetic soldier arrives, smelling of chili, cheese and chives, rum, relish and rose. Top of the morning and 100,000 welcomes to you laddies, he sings whilst he taps his toes. I heard you to be going to the trenches. Well, we've got a little tradition back where I come from. We give fellas heading off to war a rip-roaring send-off. So we do. A send-off? A party? A celebration? We can't do that. We're not allowed out. Can we afford it? No. No wages, no money, no gold. No one likes a conchi. The clerk replies, whilst he fiddles with his chair, his hair, and his muddy footwear. How much do you be having? The sympathetic soldier responds with his usual flair. So Alfred empties his pockets onto his bed and nods his hairy head to lead by example, before his comrades have his bronze pieces, his notes which are full of creases, and his tatty, linen, sample. It's barely enough for some bisto, and nowhere near enough for a party in a bistro, cafe, canteen or club. The sympathetic soldier leaves, the agitator dusts his sleeves, and the clerk looks out at a shrub. How's about you? The sympathetic soldier says when he returns with his massive amount of grub. When he returns this rainy evening, with his coffee which is steaming, and his fillets of fresh hake, these pears, peaches and plums, bacon, burgers and buns, and his creamy chocolate cake, which has splashes of berries, sploshy of cherries, and sprinkles of chocolate flake. We certainly backed the right horse here, Athlete says as he eats a piece of steak. We've hit the bullseye. There's no way our money could have bought all this. You deserve it, so you do, the sympathetic soldier says whilst he cuts the cake. You've had more respect than you realise. Not from the slave drivers, understand. They're all a bit arseways. But from plenty of footsloggers who think you're fierce brave and wanted to be showing you their support. To be sure. The sentiment makes the watchmaker feel happy, the nurse feel clappy, and the agitator feel calmer too. He does not agitate tonight, he does not fight, and he welcomes his soldiers without much ado. He listens to their tales of filth, firearms and fears, tanks, trenches and tears, mustard gas and warm beers, about loopy lieutenants who go berserk, band majors who make them work, and bunkers, brigadiers. We're not so different. When they send me over the top, I always shoot high. Just like you, I'll never kill anyone, this tall soldier says as he eats some berries. Shoot high? This short soldier replies as he eats some cheese. I've never even loaded my gun. The Rupert's never checked the blaster thing. The Germans are in on it too, the sympathetic soldier agrees. We do be having a sort of an agreement not to kill each other, so we do. They don't want to be here either. This ragtag group starts to sing like fishy whalers, salty sailors, and soldiers who are marching off to fight. They sing She is far from the land, feeling hunky-dory. They sing Land of Hope and Glory, with delirium, delectation, and delight. They sing songs about being alone, about their home, and about their plight. They feel great when they fall asleep here tonight. They feel great when we walk through this rain, when we board the sluggish train, which is marked 40 men and 13 dogs inside. They feel great when they are handcuffed, confined, contorted and crushed, torn, twisted and tied. At first, all is breezy, and all is bright, without any side of a food, fracker or fight, trench, torpedo or tank. They pass fields full of grey stone walls, markets full of farmer stalls, and children playing petanque. Red and white poppies infiltrate fields which are full of dry wheat. Horses and cart trot down the street, and soldiers share their bisto cubes. This private gets off the train to pick some apples for his conchies who are still in shackles and tied to his metal tubes. So it seems to Alfred that soldiers become more considerate than ever before, the nearer they get to the war and all of the war's afflictions. But the nearer they get to the war, the more the soldiers understand what Alfred's campaign is for, and the more they understand his convictions. But as the minutes turn into 30 long hours, these skies start to fill with acidic showers, acidic mist and acidic rain. This thunder starts to crash, this lightning starts to flash, over and over again. So the peace in its world is dank, dreary and damp when they arrive at this frontline camp, which they walk through in pairs. They ride donkeys through this mud and this flood before they walk down these flooded stairs. They walk through this abandoned fish market, which smells of fish brine, fish spine and fish scales. They walk past these scraps of fish skin, fish fin and fish tails. They walk past wooden poles, down through these wooden holes and into this underground wooden box, where they are unable to relax, with their arms tied behind their backs and their feet in their crusty socks. "Listen up, cowfish! Listen up hard!" the commanding officer screeches out like a fox. Here is a man with a hairy mole on one cheek, hairy eyes which leak, and a solitary golden tooth. With Alfred's father's gait, he holds his back so straight that his chin points up towards the roof. "This is a frontline army camp, and not a domestic barracks, and certainly not a holiday resort. Oh no, you're on active duty now. We demand blind obedience here. Blind obedience. If you don't comply with orders, you'll be shot. And if you don't conform to army ways, you'll be shot. And if you don't meet our standards, you'll be shot as well. You've got your work cut out just to stay alive. Don't expect any sympathy, soldiers. Don't expect any sympathy. And don't expect to become martyrs and heroes and saints. Oh no, your deaths shan't make the papers, and you shan't be talked about, and your stories shan't be told. Oh no, you'll disappear like dead fishes in the sea, and dirt underfoot, and water which has been thrust down the lavvy. Just like the Conchi who is shot for his lack of respect, and the Conchi who is shot for his obstinance, and the Conchi who is shot for his insubordination. Oh yes." The commanding officer stomps away and is replaced by the Scoon who is hairy, the Scoon who is scary, and the Scoon who is stout. These goons take the peace unit's packs and the khaki macs, which smell of stale trout. But Alfred keeps his frankincense and myrrh without causing a stir or moving about. "Sit down," this temperamental soldier begins to shout. "We didn't tolerate girly hair in the army. It's not expedient. Why, amen. There's no place for feminine homosexuals here. It's time for you to act like a man, become a man, and look like a man. Aye, no, aye, no, aye. You do look nice." He shoves Alfred onto his chair and cuts Alfred's hair with his pair of serrated scissors. The peace unit were pulled as he turns Alfred bald with his pair of serrated clippers. "You think you're so strong, beating up a man who's tied up in chains?" The agitator begins to bleat as his heart skips a beat, whilst he bobs his shoulders and stamps his feet. "I'll rock you and sock you if I were free. I'll kill the French president. I'll kill the Austrian emperor. I'll kill you all. Let me at ya. Let me at ya." The Skiggly Goon laughs, the Skiddy Goon barfs, and that Grizzly Goon flashes a gun. He wants to hit the agitator's gut and kick his butt because he thinks it would be fun. "It's okay, I don't mind," Alfred says, whilst the clerk starts to hum. My hair was getting very long. I'm thankful for his haircut. I feel rather obliged to this man. This man is sweeter than a mouse, softer than a bunny, and smoother than a little kitten. Alfred says this because he does not consider the temperamental soldier to be vicious, malicious, or mean. As he loses his hair, Alfred starts to feel light, bright, calm, cheerful, and clean. Free from pride, passion, and pain, he feels less vain and more serene. "Stashes is for officers only. It's not expedient for conscripts like you to have facial hair," the temperamental soldier begins to say as he shaves Alfred's face until it looks grey and then leads his goons away. The peace unit breathe a collective sigh of relief before they discuss their grief and the current situation. Some are not sure what to feel, some think the threats are real, and some that they are just a fabrication. "I think it's all bluff and bluster," the apprentice says with elation. "They move us around and repeat the same old threats, but they never shoot us. They'd have done it already if they could. They're just trying to break us down. I bet my last halfpenny on it. The sun will rise tomorrow, the tides will come and go, and peace will outmuscle war in the end. It always does. We're the bravest, boldest, and best. We're awesome. We use the brains in our heads and the feet in our shoes to become unbeatable. I know we will. I just know we will." "Don't think I agree," the coward counters. "I think they might mean it this time. I guess it's why they brought us here, to France. Life is cheap here. No one will think much of killing a few conchs like us. I can't even bear to think about it. You shouldn't throw in the towel just yet. It's too close to call, the athlete says as he begins to stagger and knocks his ladder whilst he clenches his aching bladder. But right now, I need the toilet, which is a bit of a sticky wicket. I'm stuck behind the 8 ball. There's a toilet over there, the watchmaker cries as he points at a bucket which is covered in flies who all have bulbous eyes. I know, the athlete replies, but I need the toilet, which is far from smooth sailing in these chains. It's a whole new ball game now. Oh, the schoolmaster tries to surmise. You need help, don't you? Like when Bizan needed Rustam to rescue her from the pit. So the schoolmaster reverses his skinny loins back into the athlete's muscled groins until they connect like a stack of spoons. He grips the athlete's breeches and does them near his leeches and near those mouldy prunes. Athlete shuffles to remove his khaki pants and squats down by his ants with his hands tied behind his bum. His comrades close their eyes and shake their thighs because they know their turn will come. This ritual bonds this group and makes them a genuine troop who are ready for the road ahead, apart from the coward whose face has soured and turned a bright shade of red. Peace Unit's blazers become rumpled, the trousers become crumpled, and the shirts become creased. The coward becomes stressed as the sun sets from the west and then rises up in the east. Exercise daily, the Christian says whilst he paces around like a caged beast. Run from Satan and walk with the Lord. Let's level the playing field. Let's punch above our weight. Let's clear every hurdle, the athlete says before he starts to graze on his piece of stale bread. Eat to stay strong, the watchmaker says as a rat walks up that gutter, runs along that shutter, and then falls on his skew-with head. Go to sleep, the coward says with dread. Yawn, yawn, yawn. Before his goons come to push him down his halls, past his seafood stalls, and past his tables which are covered in dishes, where they unshackle a piece in its hands near his seafood stands which were once used for gutting fishes. Crustaceans, the commanding officer demands, commands, and screeches, as he points at this one-armed bandit who has a hook for a hand, a khaki headband, and a peg leg beneath his breeches. This man lost his arm fighting, and defending, and protecting you. Not so you can just live in peace, and lie about, and do nothing. Oh no, he did it so people would fight like him, and respect him, and salute him too. So salute him, soldiers, salute him now. But with their resolve still intact, the peace unit do not react, and they do not salute. The watchmaker giggles, the coward wriggles, and the athlete stamps his boot. I shall beseech you, and command you, and tell each one of you humanities in turn. The commanding officer begins to shoot. And you shall salute, soldiers, you shall salute. Because if you don't, you'll be thrown in front of a military panel, and face a trial, and be shot by a firing squad before you know it. Oh yes. The commanding officer walks with a slippery slide and a graceless glide as he slithers across this ground. He holds his back as vertical as it can be, and locks his knee, which makes this clunky sound. Salute, soldier, salute, he commands a Christian who refuses to obey. Salute, soldier, salute, he commands the engineer who does not even sway. Salute, soldier, salute, he commands Alfred, the athlete, and the apprentice. Salute, soldier, salute, he commands a coward in a voice which sounds stupendous. But the coward has struggled to stick to his stance ever since he arrived here in France, and so he fills with faint-heartedness. He struggles for air and he struggles for breath, as the thought of death makes him stress, as it fills him with timidity, misery, misgiving, and morbidity, and turns him into a mess. He gives his hand from by his side, lets it glide, and locks it into his brow. He drawls, blows, blubbers, and bawls, and makes this sorry bow. Sorry, lads, he explains right now, but you've all got religions and beliefs, I think, and I've got nothing. I'm just a coward. I'm just not brave enough to be a Conchi, so I guess I'll have to become a soldier instead. I suppose it'd be better if I'd never been born. Judas, he's on the ropes and out for account, athlete mutters with doom. Traitor, turncoat, treasonist, the agitator utters with gloom. Let me at him. I'll kill him. I'll kill the Japanese emperor. I'll kill the Chinese president. I'll kill them all. Good man, the commanding officer splutters and sputters as he slides across this room. Top hole, go collect your uniform and gun and papers. You shall receive 30 silver francs for signing on. 30 silver francs! And as for the rest of you, this fine gentleman should be an example and a model and an inspiration to every one of you. Every one of you. Oh, yes. Salute or be shot, soldier. Salute or be shot, he commands the clerk, schoolmaster, and agitator. Salute or be shot, soldier! Salute or be shot! He commands the nurse, socialist and watchmaker. Salute or be shot, soldier! Salute or be shot! He commands the tax collector. But with their resolve still intact, the rest of the peace unit do not react. They do not obey and they do not salute. The coward stampedes away like an elephant who's gone astray and trips over himself en route. He stumbles like a boulder, hits his khaki-clad shoulder and tears his khaki suit. Very well, you cruddy sea cucumbers, commanding officer begins to hoot. I do recognise and respect and admire your obstinance. You're rotten people. But, to give you your due, your rottenness is truly magnificent. Oh yes. Don't be fooled though. Don't be fooled. You're like mice, and we're like cats. A mouse may run about and hide and manoeuvre. A mouse may believe that he's in charge of a game. But a cat can end his fun with one single swipe of his paw. Oh yes. Well, we fenced with each other and duelled and had our fun. But the time for make-believe hath passed. You're like mice in a steel trap. Whether you can see them or not, there are strong springs and heavy levers and mighty bars gripping hold of you. We're in charge here, and we will get our way, privates. We will get our way. You'll start your punishments on the morrow. Until then, you consider yourself free to leave this camp and talk to soldiers and consider your options. You've 24 hours to clear your head, think about your actions, and succumb to rhyme and reason. But the last day of freedom you ever have, soldiers. Your last ever day of freedom. Christian utters some religious vows. The clerk lifts his bushy-eyed brows, and the agitator spits on the floor. They fill with dismay as the commanding officer slides away and exits through that door. He leaves them on their own, whilst the engineer starts to moan and shells explode in the sky, whilst trench mortars bristle, whiz-bangs whistle, and pom-poms fly right by. The sounds of exploding munitions and violent missions ring in the peace unit's ears, while the smell of voided bows and burning fowls float over these war-torn frontiers. Alfred and the other teenagers walk past these French villagers, these professional pillagers and these hairy fleas, these Tommies who blow bubbles into the air, these French maidens who brush their hair, and those buzzing bees, before they stop near these lakes, which are full of these drakes and surrounded by those trees, where they wash for the first time in days, while are in the smoky haze and recover from their incarceration, where they swim, front crawl, and play football until they are covered in perspiration. It seems to me, the apprentice says with elation, the last lot of conchies must have given in to the army's demands. We wouldn't be here otherwise. But what the hell, we can be better than them. We can be the best. We can achieve whatever we want to achieve and be whoever we want to be. Please, let's be strong and united, Alfred agrees. Please, please, please. Let's go toe to toe with the war makers. It will discourage them from sending any more peacemakers this way. If they don't kill us, they'll free us once they've won their war, the clerk adds, as he fiddles with this weed, this reed, and the seed. Will they want us on their hands? No. No one likes a Conchi. You think the Allies will win their war? The engineer asks in a voice which sounds unsure, demure, and obscure. We're all cooked, the clerk replies, with fluttering eyes, which have a certain allure. It's a war. There are only ever losers in war. The last ones to realise their loss will declare themselves winners. That's all. Only our leaders will be too stupid to see that they've lost. They'll keep on going whilst everyone else gives up, and then they'll say they've won. Whilst they speak, the older members of the peace unit sit at a promenade cafe near the dock of a bay and reach a similar conclusion too. They sup espressos which are bought by a generous soldier with veiny eyes, veiny thighs, and a uniform which is slightly askew. And tonight they feel fine, they combine, and they unite. This morning they feel overjoyed, buoyed, and bright. All for one and one for all, the watchmaker cheers with delight. All for one and one for all, the peace unit reply with might. Before the coward brings them their food, in a guilty mood, and shakes with feeble force. He cries, wipes his eyes, and speaks with feeble remorse. I'm so sorry for abandoning you. I feel guilty, beyond belief. I think, he says, in a voice which is feebly hoarse. My nerves were on edge, my mind was hazy, and I was having nightmares every night. I just couldn't hack it, I suppose. Not when I only had to peel spuds to stay alive. The coward looks sullen, sombre, and subdued, as he hands out the peace unit's food, which he's bought in the dented can, pours some water which contains chlorine, and looks a bit green, before he gives 4 biscuits to every man. They're a little bit stale, I suppose, but they're the best I could get, he says, as he empties his toilet pan. I do want to help, I think. You don't have to eat them dry, Alfred says, as he dips his biscuit into his water and gives it to the coward to try. I guess, but I've abandoned you, the coward says with a sigh. Please eat it. Please, please, please. What's mine is yours, Alfred says in reply. You were always doomed to destruction, but your heart is good. You just don't have the rebel passion. You did well to stick with us for so long. We're grateful for your efforts. We do feel obliged. The clerk fiddles with his sleeves, but no one disagrees, before the coward finally leaves. Love one another as I love you, Alfred says as he begins to sneeze. Achoo! Please, please, please. This is my only request, because through love everyone will see that you're disciples of peace. And before too long, the peace unit are made to climb these sodden stairs, prodded by these goons who work in pairs, with malice on their faces. They're pushed next to this grubby soldier who is covered in grubby dirt, with muck on his grubby shirt, and dirt all over his laces. Gutless maggots! The commanding officer shouts as he clutches his shiny braces. You're all guilty of insubordination, and disobedience, and non-compliance, and you're all going to be punished for it. Oh yes, starting with you, Private, starting with you. He approaches the grubby soldier with a slippery slide and a gracious glide, whilst he slithers across this ground. He holds his back as vertical as it can be, and locks his knee, which makes this clunky sound. You, Private, are guilty of 3 counts of insubordinate language, and 2 counts of threatening language, and 1 count of disobeying a lawful command. You failed to march to army standards, and annoyed your superiors, and distracted your fellow soldiers. Your actions have been deliberate, and public, and persistent, despite the second chances with which you've been bestowed. So you should be shot for your crimes at dawn. Oh yes, you've no right to appeal, Private, no right to appeal. Get rid of this haddock, the commanding officer orders with furious spite and furious might. Now he has proven that his threats are not hollow. And so the grubby soldier is taken away, out of his fray, by these goons who seem happy to follow. You're all as guilty as him, and have committed similar crimes, and face similar punishment too. The commanding officer howls and yowls whilst Alfred starts to swallow. Oh yes, you had a day to consider your options and change your ways, and you can be saved. All you have to do is salute. So salute, soldiers, salute. But with their resolve still intact, the peace unit do not react, and they do not salute. The apprentice glances, the agitator advances, and the athlete stamps his boot. Very well, the commanding officer begins to shoot. I expected as much. He stands with a posture which is perfectly erect, and pauses for maximum effect, before he reveals the peace unit's fate. But despite seeing a soldier get sentenced, the peace unit wait without repentance, and do not take the officer's bait. Because Alfred has told his friends to love one another, that they are all each other's brother, unified, undivided, and united. This love makes them strong. It makes them feel like they belong, and it makes them feel delighted. Alfred breathes in and breathes out, frees himself from doubt, and escapes from all of his woes. His breath travels from bronchiole to bronchitolarynx, up through his pharynx, and all the way out through his nose. You'll be placed in solitary confinement, the commanding officer blows. There'll be no more contact, and collusion, and camaraderie betwixt you any more. Oh no, you'll be thrown in a clink, and shackled, and subjugated to field punishment number 1. You will fall in line, soldiers. You will fall in line. Get these puny seaweeds out of here. The temperamental soldier, whose skin is the colour of whey, and whose hair is the colour of hay, grabs both of Alfred's wrists. He drags Alfred down these sodden stairs, and past those sodden chairs, before he swings his sodden fists, before he chains Alfred to this pole, inside this underground hole, with his knots and with his twists. Please tell me, Alfred persists, what is field punishment number 1? The temperamental soldier considers war expedient rather than right, so he despises conscience for their inexpedient refusal to fight, but he also respects a resolve. He flits between rancour, revulsion and rejection, or adulation and affection, as his emotions all revolve. Crucifixion, he replies with this menacing scowl, which looks fierce, feisty and foul, before he emits this teeth-gnashing growl, this vocal cord quivering, fear-delivering yowl, this fist-smashing, limb-thrashing howl, this laugh which usurps linguistics, as he goes ballistic and starts to ravage, as he becomes malicious, vicious and savage. Crash, bang, wallop, the temperamental soldier punches Alfred's breast. Crash, bang, wallop, this pain shoots across Alfred's chest. Crash, bang, wallop, Alfred falls to the ground to rest. The temperamental soldier rolls up his khaki sleeves, turns around and leaves, without making another suggestion. The field punishment number 1 is indeed crucifixion, a torturous sort of affliction, so he has answered Alfred's question. Field punishment number 1 replaced lashing back in 1881, because lashing had appalled everyone in the whole of the British nation. People who considered army life akin to penal servitude, without any sort of gratitude or any appreciation. So crucifixion took flogging's place to help the army save face and improve the image of their organisation. Field punishment number 1 allows the war makers to tie their victims to any standing object and leave them there for 2 hours whilst the pain takes effect, clamped, confined and chained. The victims are left amongst crickets, cockroaches and crows, in sleet, storms and snows, whilst they are slighted, slandered and shamed. So Alfred has his chest stripped bare, his arms stretched square, and his palms strapped to his lines of sparky barbed wire, these lines of twisted metal strands which pierce his hands, whilst his feet slip through this mire, whilst blood pours over his fists, his wrists and his discarded rubber tyre. With no man's land and the Germans just out of touch, he faces the warfare he poses so much, full of sickness, soreness and strain. He faces the reserve lines and the front line trench, the Flemish, the Fijians and French, the panic, plague and pain. Mortar shells fly this way and splatter the sky with fiery spray. Fiery shrapnel and fiery fire makes a temperamental soldier groan before he leaves Alfred alone here in this boggy mire. The temperamental soldier smiles and then he scowls, he whispers and then he howls, he feels good and then he feels dire. He is replaced by the corpses of people in the armed forces, dead mules and dead horses, which pass Alfred by in a procession of gore, with bloody limbs, bloody skins, the smell of decay and the smell of war. This ginger cat rubs Alfred's feet, whilst the smell of burnt human meat floats across this boggy floor, before his provost marshal walks down the street with heavy feet and a voice which begins to roar. His arrival reminds Alfred of the nurse's ghoulish dreams, ghoulish screams and ghoulish premonitions. His premonitions about 20-foot red-faced beasts with gnashing metal teeth and many evil missions, who beat him down and hung him near town in all sorts of tangled positions. But here this beast stands, with his pair of knuckly hands and his pair of piercing eyes. He has already had Alfred beaten down and hung near town, using twine, twists and ties. The provost marshal is tall, tanned and towering, with a stare which is overpowering, and this omnipotent sort of sheen. His face is impish, infernal and intrigued, frenzied, flustered and fatigued, maroon, magenta and mean. But it is the provost marshal's teeth which look ridiculously terrific, ridiculously horrific, and fill Alfred with ridiculous grief. For despite being a powerful man, the provost marshal could not control a single fang in his gnashing metal teeth. His teeth skew one way and then bend back the other. They lap up over one another, and they leave spaces where they're supposed to be. They sting when the provost marshal eats ice creams. They bleed when he brushes their seams, and they triple up 3 on 3. So between the provost marshal's lips is a line of metal strips with metal pads pressed underneath. They form this metal brace, which creates this metal space, which is full of his metal teeth. "Hail the king of the countries," he says with disbelief. "You reckoned you could bring an end to war and armies, but you can't even save yourself. Bugger me, you knave, beggar, coward and pimp. You son and heir of a mongrel bitch. Let peace save you from this. You wanted to save mankind. Son of a gun, what muddled them? You misshapen dick, you profane coxcomb. You can't even save yourself. The king of the countries. Tut, tut, tut." And dressed in his military attire, he speaks with spiteful ire, as he coronates Alfred's head with his crown of barbed wire. "The king of the countries. Tut, tut, tut. You bean-fed horse. You piece of worm's meat. You empty purse. Let peace free you from this." "Peace will free me," Alfred replies, "for peace always overcomes war in the end." "Yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you." But at the very end, separated from each and every friend, does seem a long way away, as Alfred broods in his cell, this silent hell, day after day after day, as he spends weeks alone, missing home, whilst his muscles all start to pulse, whilst they start to ache, break, and convulse. Alfred is left here, whilst the mauled, mutilated and maimed, dead, dying and drained, all begin to cry, whilst bullets beep, mortars weep, and missiles fill the sky, before his generous soldier, with veiny eyes and veiny thighs, starts to walk on by. "I think this crucifixion malarkey is disgusting and inhumane," he starts to sigh. "It makes you question why we're even fighting the Germans. I doubt they'd treat you any worse than this. Stick with it, son. Stick to your guns. The generous soldier pats Alfred's hip, puts a cigarette on Alfred's lip, and lights its paper tip. This should make some pleasure in your pain, he begins to quip. Stick with it, son. Stick to your guns. Alfred has never smoked before, and does not want to start whilst he is here at war, even if it brings him rest, relaxation, or relief. But this experience reminds Alfred that soldiers can be refined, cool, caring, and kind, so his confidence starts to increase. He begins to grin, smile, swagger, and spin, as he converts his jailer to peace. How are you doing? He asks, as he adjusts his fleece. Terrible, the temperamental soldier replies with caprice. Well, champion, actually. I've been eating the chalks my girl sent us. I've got a girl too, Alfred says with an empathetic sway, which moves him this way, to look at this picture of his jailer's fiancée. Aye? A canny lass? Alfred uses this opportunity to speak about Cleo's spotty nose, her jazzy clothes, and her kindly nursing, whilst the temperamental soldier speaks about his fiancée's curls, her pearls, and her cursing. When the temperamental soldier is in a foul mood, up for a fight, fracas, or feud, Alfred stays mute. But when he seems alright, bubbly, buoyant or bright, they both have a hoot. They build a bond, correspond, and talk whilst they commute. Alfred retells the good German's old fables, explains how to make wooden tables, and talks about Cleo's gnomes, whilst the temperamental soldier talks about his town's timber yards, boulevards, and working-class homes. Why, aye, man, I'm a conscript like yous, he says as he brushes his hair with two combs. I'm more than happy to be walking prison corridors rather than muddy trenches. Aye? Nah. Aye? Nah. Aye. I want to be fully limp for my girl when I get home. It's only expedient. I'm a plumber, me. A man needs his arms in order to plumb. Your heart's not really in this war, is it? Alfred asks as he up the stakes. It's expedient, the temperamental soldier replies as he wobbles, hobbles, and shakes. Please tell me, is it expedient to support those who kill, whilst you imprison those who refuse to? It keeps us out of trouble. But is it right? It's expedient. Right? Expedient. Right? Aye? Nah. Aye? Nah. Aye. Expedient. Please can I have an extra biscuit to celebrate the King's birthday tomorrow? I'll be ever so grateful, Alfred concludes. Why, aye, man, the temperamental soldier replies in a confused mix of moods. Are you insane? Aye. Nah. Aye. Nah. Aye. Nah. Maybes, but only if it's expedient. And so the temperamental soldier brings his vegetable bake and his carrot cake as he enters his cell today, gives Alfred a slap with his leather strap, and then takes these handcuffs away. He does this because the war makers have realised their punishments have not had an effect, earned them respect, or overcome the conscience convictions. They've realised their crucifixions need refinement, as does their solitary confinement, because the peacemakers have coped with all of their afflictions. So the peace unit return to their original cell, get crucified together as well, and feel like they have been freed. Mouths which have been shut for weeks now jibber-jabber, chit-chat and blibber-blubber at high speed. They talk about beatitude, serenity, salvation and servitude, gluttony, generosity and greed. It's all right for you. You're tall, the stumpy engineer begins to plead. You'll excuse my bluntness, but I've had to stand on tiptoes for 2 hours a day. You think your arms hurt? Well, my legs hurt more. Oh, whatever have I done? Have I stepped on a crack? Have I seen a magpie? Have I sung at a table? Oh, I don't see why the war makers just don't hurry up and shoot us. They daren't. They're too scared, Alfred replies as he scratches his shoulder, looks at this boulder, and thinks of a temperamental soldier. Please understand, the war makers aren't the lions they pretend to be. Once you get to know them, you realise that they're more like mules than lions. Mules? I don't understand. Me, I understand nothing. Oh, whatever have I done? Mules indeed, Alfred blasts. Like the mule who a penny-pinching salesman once used to carry his wares. Please understand, that mule worked really hard for his miserly master and pulled his cart for many miles each day. But the salesman never bought mule any food. No, not one bit. You see, the salesman had a lion's skin, a real grandiose thing which had a lion's head, a lion's mane, and a hide covered in lion's fur. He dressed mule in that skin so he looked just like a lion, and leave mule in a field whenever he was hungry. No one was ever brave enough to approach what they thought was a lion, so mule was able to eat whatever he wanted. Until one day, a brave farmer felt compelled to act. He was worried that a lion might come into his village and attack a child. So he rounded up some villagers and ran at mule with them by his side. Please, just imagine it. They screamed, they shouted, they hollered and they howled. Mule was scared. He galloped away so quickly that the lion's hide fell from his back. And he galloped so far but the salesman never saw him again. He had to pull his cart himself. Yes, 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 thanking you. So, the schoolmaster explains once more, like before, whilst he sits cross-legged on this concrete floor. The salesman is our government, isn't he? He sends Mule, our army, into fields, distant lands, where he shouldn't really be. He does it day after day, war after war, until Mule finally flees. Like when Spartacus fled from Mount Vesuvius in ancient Rome. That's right, Alfred agrees. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love what you've done there. You're so smart. Mule does whatever a salesman wants, just like a soldier who does whatever he is told. It doesn't make him intelligent, respectable, or strong. No, no, no. It only makes him obedient. And it takes someone truly, truly, truly brave to stop his wrongdoing. Someone loving, loyal, and passionate. Someone like the farmer. Someone like us. Like Mule, the war makers only appear to be scary. Deep down, they're harmless. Mule wouldn't attack the village, and the soldiers won't attack us. Please understand, killing thousands of peacemakers will be a public relations disaster for them, which is why, after many threats and many, many, many opportunities, they still haven't shot us. They're only punishing us because they think it will make us conform, and we, in turn, must continue to resist. We must make the war makers realise that we'll never submit. Never, ever, ever. I wish I had your confidence, the engineer says, with arms which ache, hands which quake, and legs which shake. I expect they'll shoot us once they get bored of playing their games. I'm tremendously sorry to say it, but I fear we're hanging on by our eyelids now. Oh, whatever have I done? Have I not kept guard in my heart? Have I supped with Satan? Have I kept a skeleton in my closet? Oh, shoot. Oh, my. Now, now, darling. The nurse calms, with open arms and open palms. Alfred is spot on. His story was lovely. Simply screaming. We are doing famously. Rah, rah, rah. I dare say, if people only knew about the ghastly things the war makers were doing to us, their shenanigans would soon stop. The war makers have invested millions of pounds in propaganda. They would not want to risk all the goodwill which they had bought. We just need to get a message home. Alfred listens, and he understands. So he grabs this wood with both his hands, as he returns from today's crucifixion. He uses it to make a model of the temperamental soldiers of more, using the sharp edges on this door, and some force, finesse, and friction, and using the sharp edges on the agitator's handcuffs, which he has worn since he made a fuss, and spoke out with abrasive diction. I'm more patriotic than you, sucker, he recently told a grouchy goon. I'm more patriotic than you, shirker, that soldier replied in front of the whole of his platoon. Conchies are braver than soldiers. Soldiers are braver than conchies. Peace will kick war's ass. War will kick peace's ass. Morality before authority. Authority before morality. Civility over military. The military over civility. The agitator continues to talk as he sits on this chalk which covers the scrubby floor, with his wrists in his chains, which pinch his veins and make him feel incredibly sore. I don't see why we just don't take him on, he begins to roar. Those suckers wouldn't stand a chance. I'll kill the privates. I'll kill the officers. I'll kill them all. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Peace, power. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I think we should have joined the army in the first place. We could have wreaked some real havoc on the inside, poisoning troops, destroying weapons, and alerting the Germans to upcoming attacks. We could have splattered them, rocked them, and socked them. We could have saved thousands of lives. The other conchies all begin to stare, swear, and sigh, whilst the schoolmaster begins to groan, moan, and cry. It was that kind of behaviour which got you tied up, wasn't it? He tests. And I'd have gotten away with it too, the agitator protests, if it wasn't for you meddling kids. Peace, power! But you'd have been wrong to, the socialist blares, whilst he jiggles his gut, his butt, and his breasts. The soldiers aren't our enemies. They're only here as a result of unemployment and conscription. They're working class, just like us, and they're socialists too. We're all socialists. Everyone's a socialist. We've always been socialists, and will always be socialists. So we should be uniting with British soldiers, the Austrian soldiers, and the German soldiers. We should be fighting the capitalists with them by our side. This war is already pitting worker against worker. It doesn't need you to increase the infighting. You're right, I suppose, the agitator agrees. I'll kill the Russian Empire instead. I'll kill the Ottoman Sultan. I'll kill them all. The temperamental soldier brings this conversation to a halt as he storms into this underground vault in a fairly malicious mood. But after a day spent carrying bunks and a night spent restraining drunks, he feels crabby and has started to brood. I made you this, Alfred says as he puts down his food, before he passes the temperamental soldier this wooden sculpture, this piece of conchi culture, which makes his jailer smirk. His jailer feels elated, chirpy, cheerful, and captivated as he inspects Alfred's handiwork. Sometimes, when I'm out being crucified, Alfred says, whilst he winks at the clerk, I see soldiers writing postcards. Please could we send one too? Please, please, please. Why, aye, man. It's my job to control prisoners, not to provide services for them. Temperamental soldier replies as he shakes his head, kicks his bed, and throws his bread. Aye? Nah. Aye? Nah. Aye? Mebbies. I'll see what I can do. But only if it's expedient. And so after another long day and another long night, the temperamental soldier returns with a slight and his field service postcard. It's pre-printed with pre-approved lines and a premonishment that people who write messages will be punished with fines imposed by an army guard. These lines say, I've been sent to the base. I'm enjoying France/Italy/other place. And I received your cigarettes/sweets/case. Well, this is mortally useless. The engineer whinges whilst he cringes with fear all over his face. My eye, I knew they wouldn't allow us to write about our treatment. We're about as right side up as a billiard ball. Oh, whatever have we done? Have we crossed knives? Have we sung before breakfast? Have we opened our umbrellas and doors? Oh my. The agitator simpers, the socialist whimpers, and the athlete whines. The engineer's forehead turns ruby red with all his furrow lines. Holy smoke, the nurse says, with a face which glimmers, shimmers, and shines. Righty-ho, yah, rah, hip hip hooray, one does believe one has got it. Do be a good egg, do be a jolly fine fellow, and do pass on that card. The nurse covers this card with inky scribbles, oily squiggles, and splodgy lines. He crosses a few slashes, dashes, and signs. There you go. Everything is just tickety-boo. Simply divine. Rah, 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 he says with a smile which bulges. I have been sent to France. I receive billets. This card now divulges. One's parents will forward it to one's connections, and, chocks away, they will mobilise in our defence. We'll soon be leaving this rotten place, saying doodle pip, home James, and do not spare the horses. It's awfully top-notch stuff. Rah, rah, rah. The temperamental soldier returns to take this postcard, which he carries past that courtyard, that office and his dormitory blocks, whilst the peace unit pray that he does not change his mind when he passes stores full of tanks, wooden planks, and military stocks, because whilst they are grateful for his assistance, they worry that it will not go the full distance before he reaches the army's post box. So they are full of positivity, full of negativity, and in a full flamox. And Alfred is just as confused, baffled, bewildered, and bemused by his breathing exercise, which brings him some peace, but not total release, no matter how hard he tries. It makes him recall one of a good journalist's publications, in which he read about an ascetic who resisted temptations in order to clear his mind. You can't start a fire with wet trees, he read whilst he delivered some peas, and his horse pulled his cart behind. I'm going to stop eating, he says, feeling liberated, emancipated, and refined. Who needs food anyway? Please, a contented mind is a continual feast. You can consider it a hunger strike if you like. The authorities may even release me when I become frail, just like they did with the suffragists. I'll pray for you, the Christian replies, and, by the grace of God, you'll do it. Dear Lord, look after this man. Guard him against the evil ones, like you said you would in Thessalonians 3, and be with him till the end of time, like in Matthew 20. I'm in your corner, the athlete adds. At this stage of the game, you've got to cover all your bases, jockey for position, and move the goalposts wherever you can. You're not going to eat a thing? Nothing? Not even a biscuit a day? The clerk adds as he fiddles with a seat, this sheet, and this block of concrete. You're not even going to drink? No water? No tea? No coffee? Really? No one likes a congee. Not a drop, Alfred replies. And he begins his new diet, which makes him strain, full of pain, and full of uncomfortable vibrations, whilst his blurred vision makes objects seem blurrier, swirlier, and like psychedelic hallucinations. Alfred's body turns into a scabby mesh made from a sheet of loose flesh, which hangs from his protruding bones. His hair falls out whenever it is rubbed. His skin breaks whenever it is scrubbed, and his organs jangle about like stones. So Alfred's knees both begin to quake, and his torso begins to shake, as he carries his cross up to today's crucifixion, as he stumbles over his feet, tumbles across his street, and falls into an unconscious condition, before he wakes up in this ward which is full of men with gonorrhea, men with pyorrhea, and men in remission. I'm missing an earlobe, 2 fingers and 3 toes, a plucky patient says as he holds a firearm. I was blown up whilst I ate some cheese, a peppy patient stammers because of a nerve damage in his arm. My leg is full of all the iodine in the world, a poorly patient says with a certain charm. Any old iron, any old iron, any old iron. And stood between them all is this medic who is scabby, scarred, and small, with a particularly hairy nose, with toilet paper in his gun holder, a scab on his shoulder, and a scab on each of his toes. Abusing your body won't bring about peace, you know, he says as he brushes his clothes. You won't stop any wars whilst you're lying in a hospital bed. You're 100% right, Alfred blows. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You sure are intelligent. You must have been first in line whilst they're handing out brains. I thought I could find enlightenment without nourishment, but I've realised that you need to feed your body before you can feed your soul. The medic says with indifferent grief as he force feeds Alfred this bully beef and his beats of overcooked leaf. Alfred is attached to 2 drips in his straitjacket, which points his elbows towards his hip and folds his wrists across his chest. So he spits out this beef and this piece of leaf before he begins to protest. I'm vegetarian, thank you, he says as his beef comes to a rest. But the medic just stands by this wooden chair without appearing to care and without appearing to hear. He forces his unwashed tube up Alfred's nose, grips Alfred's clothes, and yanks Alfred's ear. He pumps liquid into Alfred's lung, which returns back up over Alfred's tongue and sprays over everything here. Alfred turns away to inhale, feeling feeble, forlorn and frail, whilst the medic pours water down his throat, before the medic gives Alfred this bread and this fruit instead, whilst he pats his long white coat. Alfred is left here inside his straitjacket strings. His strength returns to each of his limbs, and his health begins to improve, before the one-armed bandit starts to trip, fall, flounder and flip, and lands where he is unable to move. Helpy me! I do be frail and slow. Do helpy me! He whimpers as he stretches his arm towards Alfred. I'd love to, Alfred replies as he sits up in bed. Yes, please. Please, please, please. But I can't, I'm afraid. I'm in a straitjacket. Desh! Just looky at this man, the one-armed bandit says as he nods his head. You won't even do something to help an injured soldier back upon his feet. Worse luck, I suppose. But that's a typical Conchi for you, I'm afraid, with his head screwed on t'other way. Hearken to me, yous. They're worse than the Germans. They're weak, wimpish and wicked, I tell thee. Don't you good soldiers be associating with rubbish like him. They're missing a backbone, 2 balls and 3 meters of guts, the plucky patient says as he rolls his eyes. He's in a straitjacket, for God's sake, the poorly patient replies. I'd like to eat some cheese, the peppy patient adds, whilst he stares at some pies. Alfred speaks to them about peace and war, before he's taken to be crucified near this munition store, here on this muddy land. Where the engineer complains, the schoolmaster strains, and the apprentice kicks his sand. Whilst the agitator slumps, the socialist jumps, and the clerk just waves his hand. They're bent, buckled and bound, atop this muddy ground, where they're tied up every 2 yards, where they're tied to these posts, platforms and planks, near this row of tanks and that row of guards. I can't handle any more field punishments. Please believe me, I haven't recovered from my hunger strike. I just don't have the strength in my arms, Alfred tells the nurse tonight with his poorly drawl. Oh, I say, darling, dash! The nurse replies as he passes Alfred this bitter vinegar and gall. Drink it before tomorrow's crucifixion. It will knock you unconscious. One managed to smuggle a thing or 2 through, old chap. Just do not ask how. Daze my eyes, and will not speak of such unpleasantness. So Alfred drinks his potion before today's crucifixion, to overcome his affliction, injury, infirmity, and illness. He lets out this deathly scream, slips into an unconscious dream, and a state of total stillness. Heavens above! He shouts out with shrillness. Please, why have you forsaken me? Immersed, inebriated, and intoxicated, Alfred feels emancipated. He feels limitless and totally free. With a smile on his face, he sees Cleo in this imaginary place, and he sees his favourite tree. He sees his town's winding streets, wooden seats, and wavy sea. But back here in the real world, the provost marshal looks red-faced, disgraced, and at a loss. He looks somewhat shoddy as he inspects Alfred's limp body, which hangs from his wooden cross. His eyes are flashing, and his teeth are gnashing, full of metal teeth and metal floss. Bloody hell, darn giglet wench. In all my years on this here planet, I've never seen a bugger pass out so fast. He hisses like a snake in a tin can, like the officious policeman he was before the war began. Swish, swoosh, stab, jerk, jag, jab. The provost marshal grabs the knife in his pocket, swings it faster than a launching rocket, and stabs it into Alfred's side with real violence. Red blood and gooey sweat pour out, squirt, spray, and spout, whilst Alfred just hangs here in silence. Aha! The provost marshal yowls like a kitten, playing with a mitten, who is satisfied, sated, and smitten. This rug-headed Runyon is still alive. Damn this tomfoolery. The dead don't bleed. Take this quid of curds and cream down. Take this doughy youth down. Take the bugger down. And you, Cullion, you're a nurse, I'm told. Care for him afore I have a crack myself. This canker bosom has had enough time in our hospitals already. God damn this folly. What dreadful bad business. So this grizzlegoon unstraps the nurse in an impatient hurry, before he unstraps Alfred with an impatient flurry, and discharges this globule of phlegm. He marches him past with a beaten, battered and bruised, and his donkey who's been abused, whilst the nurse picks an aloe vera stem. He mixes Alfred's myrrh with its gum, stirs it in with his thumb, and coats Alfred's wounds with its sticky broth. He watches Alfred till he wakes, comforts Alfred when he shakes, and wraps Alfred in a white linen cloth. Thank goodness that's all over with. I'd be very much obliged if I never had to go through it again, Alfred exclaims. Oh, darling, you are a regular sunbeam, the nurse claims. This crucifixion malarkey is rot. Rot! Balderdash! Utter piffle! But I dare say you will shine through it. Rah, rah, rah. But Alfred will not have to shine, bound by ties, twists, and twine. And he will not have to endure another crucifixion, because the commanding officer enters his cell with a slippery slide and a graceless glide, like the king of this jurisdiction. He glares with a wondering eye, lifts his chin towards the sky, and speaks with heartfelt conviction. Pigfish! He shouts with rumbling diction. We've had enough of your insolence, and insubordination, and insubjection, and so we're bestowing you with one final opportunity to follow orders. One final opportunity. If you refuse, and protest, and rebel, you'll all face court-martials. They shan't be like those namby-pamby district court-martials you all sail through afore. Oh, no! The old court-martials aren't nearly as livid as those queer affairs. You'll be fools, and buffoons, and nitwits to labour under such a delusion. We can dish out a death penalty here. Oh, yes, we can. This is not a false prophecy which his peacemakers can just forget, or some sort of hollow threat. It is a promise which brings them to these tracks, where these carriages have their sides exposed, to reveal the crates enclosed, which are marked with words like artillery, ammunition, and axe. Here are some trees with horseshoes nailed to their branches, around those cattle ranches, which are covered in drops of rain. These birds in the sky, these hares hopping by, and those rabbits skipping down that lane. And here is this fairly wobbly soldier, who holds this fairly tatty folder, with red hair which is a beacon of fire, fuel, and flame, with shoulders which are too wide for his chest, a waist which is too wide for his vest, and too wide for his gangly frame. Having been put together somewhat loosely, this boy used to sweat profusely as he stumbled with wobbly danger. He used to sway from right to left, with all his heft, as he searched for steady behaviour. He once played tag, tiddlywinks, and troops, house, hopscotch, and hoops, cricket, chopsticks, and conkers. He once engraved Alfred and Bernie, Prince Ever, ABC, into a chi, before he went slightly bonkers. Slimery, slivery eels! Slivery eels! The commanding officer chides, as he slides and as he glides. If you want to stay alive, you'll empty this carriage, and carry these crates, and load this mule. Oh, yes. If you want to stay alive, you'll empty this carriage, and carry these crates, and load this mule. Oh, yes. But with his usual dissension, Alfred does not pay any attention, or hear what that man has to say. He looks into Bernie's eyes, and he cries as his legs begin to give way, as he struggles not to stumble, tumble, or sway. You charged me not to kill anyone when I enlisted, Bernie begins to say. Please don't kill anyone, you said, not even to save yourself. Not really, no, not at all. And I listened. No matter how rum it might seem, I haven't killed a single German since. Not one. Well, now it's my turn to ask you for something. Please take this box, for my sake, not for the army. Just carry it a few metres and put it down over there. Good God, man, you'd be mad not to. Bonkers, doolally, cuckoo. For you, Bernie, I'd unload 1,000,000 boxes, Alfred replies. Please believe me. Please, please, please. I think you're smashing. I think you're better than strawberry ice cream on a sunny afternoon. But there are 11 other Bernies here, and they all want me to refuse. Well, for 11 Bernies, I'd do anything. I'd give my life 1,000,000 times or more. Alfred looks at the peace unit who stood on the scrubby ground, and walks towards them feeling duty-bound, with a sense of real belief, whilst Bernie hangs his head in shame, and walks away feeling rather lame, full of gripes, grievances, and grief, before the commanding officer escorts Alfred with schoolmaster, Christine and nurse, starts to curse, and starts to debrief. Mollusks, he shouts out like a tribal chief. We'll not have you ringleaders encouraging, and influencing, and educating to others. Oh no, you'll not be able to help them from in here, privates. Not from in here. But his conscience do not even mention the upcoming trial. They just smile and begin to play. They play marbles with his bits of asbestos wall, catch with his shabby ball, and hopscotch in this clay. I say, old chap, the nurse begins to say, a Quaker journalist visited us whilst you were in the infirmary. It was rather singular. One admits willingly but we should question his reports as to their correctness. No doubt they'll be full of some sort of poppycock, hogwash or bunkum. But he knew all about our situation, and he did seem jolly spiffing on the whole. We are rather obliged to him, if the truth is to be told. Oh, darling, the Reverend came with him too. He said that even the Lord of War was interested to hear about our predicament. It's a blooming fine thing, perfectly delightful. Oh, Alfred, the message has made its way home. Rah, rah, rah. The message might have made its way back in the postman's sack, or it might have not. After a stormy night, Alfred has a trial to fight, so is led on past his plot. Fall in line, right turn, quick march. The Provost Marshal moves like a cow as he leads a peace unit past his plough, Serb, Sergeant and Scott. You're under bond to obey, I tell you, you sanctimonious scroyles, you shot and herrings, you whoremongers. March, goddamn you, march! The peace unit walked through this market without delay, inhaled the smell of fishy decay and the smell of sweaty cheese. They walked down his aisles, past his tables, toilets and tiles, and through this copse of trees. Alfred is taken past his brew and enters this room, which can only be described as piecemeal. It's full of pieces of fish market paraphernalia, pieces of miniature regalia, and pieces of rusted steel. It's full of these spiky hooks, fishmongery books, and saline scalers, these bayonet blades, grenades, and dusty, loud hailers. And it's full of people like this colonel who tries to be impartial, as he sits next to the provost marshal up here on this creaky stage. The eldest soldier on sight, eyes which are black and hair which is white. He should be retired because of his age. His skin is shrunken, shriveled, and saggy, creased, crumpled, and craggy, blanched, bloodless, and beige. Stand to attention, salute, and what not? For God's sake, man, he begins to chastise. No, thank you, Alfred replies. That stuff is for soldiers, not for folk like me. No, no, no. His statement makes a commanding officer look downcast, it makes a colonel look aghast, and it makes a provost marshal blast. Damn you, what goddamn impertinence, he says with a squawk, as he starts to talk like a hungry hawk. Confound your nonsense, you sanguine coward, you lanky mountain of rubbery flesh, you creamy-faced loon, you watery pumpkin. This court considers you to be a soldier, and it should try you as one. We don't give a tinker's damn what you call yourself. That sort of froth is blown away quick sharpish here. You really ought to be glad we haven't shot you already. Now look here, man. I'm in no mood for your brand of tomfoolery. You stand accused of multiple breaches of the British Army Act. Of breaching Section 7, leading and taking part in a mutiny. Section 11, refusing to obey orders. And Section 38, attempting suicide by starvation. My God, you've got something coming to you, you poor useless little boy. You dull-eyed fool. You dish of skim milk. You puttock. Bugger. You'd be better off dead. It'd be a blessing for all of us. Why, you've even been accused of breaching Section 12 of the Act, encouraging soldiers to desert their posts. As he says this, the provost marshal gives the temperamental soldier a knowing glance, with his eyes askance and a smile which is slightly tentative. This man, whose skin is the colour of whey, and whose hair is the colour of hay, is Alfred's sole legal representative. But he looks for concord as well as for conflict, so he supports his superiors as well as his convict, and he retreats to sit before he advances to stand. He sways from kindness to cruelness, calidity to coolness, and bright to bland, before he faces south and covers his mouth with the palm of his veiny hand. Don't forget, the provost marshal starts to bleat like a cat in heat who has stood on some scorching sand. This is a field court martial. This court shall decide whether you'll live or whether you'll die. We have laws here, and if found guilty of the charges against you, they state that you must die. God damn, you must die. You must die because you've opposed the customs and rights which the government has bestowed upon the army. You must die because you've attempted to mislead the nation and oppose the will of a king. And you must die because you claim to be the king of the conscience yourself. Make no mistake, we consider your brand of buffoonery a damn menace, a threat which must be crushed afore it spreads. You caterpillar, you old crab tree, you overweening traitor. Your frightful attempts to overthrow the army shall go no further. Bugger that. There's no place for your sort in our society. I dare say this war shall cleanse our streets of degenerate parasites like you. You peevish brat. You pernicious caitiff. You poisoned hunchback toad. Your days of agitation, trouble-making and threatening the empire are coming to an end. This is your last chance to make amends. You shan't be bestowed with another goddamn opportunity ever again. Thank you, the colonel bellows with force. Have you any questions for this Mr. What's-his-name? Yes, sir, the provost marshal whinnies like a horse. Tell me, you dissembling harlot, is it true they call you the king of the conchies? You call me that, Alfred replies without any remorse. I just tried to speak the truth. Damn you, you starveling, you elf-skin, you dried ox's tongue, you bull's pizzle, you salted cod, you brazen-faced varlet. Have you heard what's been testified against you? Yes, I have. I was very much obliged. And have you anything to say? No, thank you. Bugger me! It's like drawing teeth. Jam and blast it. What a wanton mind. You don't have any defence? None whatsoever? My God! Do you take me for a sponge? Alfred just stands here and shrugs, looks at his mugs, and that box of assorted drugs. Amazing! Provost Marshal howls, like a group of horny owls, or a group of horny pugs. God damn amazing! Bugger me! How you gyp us! And how should we be made sorry for it, you darned artful hussy? You don't deny disobeying orders at all? Not at all. I've never been in your army. I've never respected your rules, and I've never obeyed your orders. Not once. No. No thank you. What a sea of tosh! It bears out everything I've been saying, the Provost Marshal cries. You are in the army, whether you like it or not. Disobeying from me off is no defence. Damn you, you mouldy rogue, you worthless gooseberry, you rat without a tail. Disobeying from you off is twice as bad as only starting later. Well then, Alfred agrees. You'll have to kill me twice then. Alfred inhales, flicks his fingernails, and laughs at his own remark, before Colonel starts to wheeze, sneeze, and bark. I beg your pardon, Mr. What's-your-name. This is no what-do-you-call-it, who's-it-what's-it, laughing matter. I've seen your thingies, your doodahs, your papers, and I dare say they're marked quite clearly with the word death. I don't think you realise the extreme seriousness of this situation. I understand, Alfred answers with a sense of obligation and appreciation, because he is grateful for this man's consideration. But there are men dying in the trenches as we speak, and I wouldn't want to be any less brave than them. No thank you. I am prepared to die for my principles. Yes. I'm just not prepared to die like a soldier, because of a lack of principles. And much to Alfred's surprise, Colonel smiles with his eyes, without beginning to chastise. Have you any statement at all? He sighs. To give yourself a what-do-you-call-it, a what's-it, fair sporting chance. Yes, please, Alfred replies. I'd like to tell the story of the guilty dogs. It happened a long time ago, when the king left his chariot outside overnight. He thought his fortified wall would protect it from interlopers. Well, it rained cats and dogs that night, and the rainwater softened the leather which adorned the king's chariot. The royal dogs couldn't help themselves. They growled, they pounced, and they tore at that meaty leather. They chewed it up, swallowed it down, and filled their bellies with the spoils of their conquest. Please understand, the king was furious. His beloved carriage had been torn to pieces, and so he flew into an almighty rage and sought revenge. He ordered his soldiers to round up all the street dogs in his kingdom, send them to a distant land, and shoot them dead. So thousands of street dogs were taken abroad, where they were shot by firing squads for a crime they had never committed, until a brave soldier confronted the king. Yes, thank you. He was a stout fellow, top brass, a real good egg. Your honour, he said, the street dogs can't have ruined your carriage. They're on the other side of your fortified wall. The courtesans, obedient folk, were shocked by the brave soldier's insubordination, but the king considered what he had to say. If you can find the guilty dogs, he replied, I'll spare the others. So the brave servant rounded up the royal dogs, gave them massive amounts of buttermilk and grass, and took them to see the king. Their bellies were so full that the royal dogs were sick, and vomited pieces of the king's chariot all over the palace floor. Your honour, the brave servant explained, these are the dogs who destroyed your chariot. The king saw that the brave servant was right, and so reversed his order to kill the street dogs. The brave servant was ever so grateful. The street dogs were rather obliged. This story makes the commanding officer look down, whilst the colonel starts to frown and look a bit confused. The temperamental soldier stares, whilst the provost marshal glares and looks a bit bemused. Please understand, Alfred says, sounding animated, captivated, and amused. The king refused to judge his own dogs, but he was happy to blame the street dogs for their crimes. And your army is much the same. Like royal dogs, your soldiers are all very guilty. They've stolen whole countries, mowed down men with machine guns, and killed women and children through blockades and concentration camps. Our government, like the king in the story, has encouraged them. And now you want to kill us, like the king killed the street dogs, even though we're the innocent ones. So please judge your own soldiers, your own army, and your own consciences before you judge us peacemakers. Please. The provost marshal's face turns red with dismay, and his metal teeth gnash away, which makes his saliva froth. The commanding officer does not seem to care, as he rocks in his chair and stares at a frenzied moth. How queer, the colonel replies, whilst he wipes his brow with a cloth. You do talk like a gibbering monkey, playing the juice with extreme insolence. Bit like your father, really. He was as mad as a hatter too. I met him at the... what's its name? The thingamabob, the concentration camp whence he was killed. Oh, Alfred, I dare say you don't even know why he's there. No, I don't, Alfred replies. I'll be ever so grateful to hear. I'll be very much obliged. Well, your father was with his unit back in 1901, and he came across a trooper who was beating a Dubbins, a pauper, Colonel explains. That little runt was cabbaging the army's food. He was suffering from extreme starvation, with gaunt eyes and ribs which poked out through his skin. Your father wanted to protect that dismal little pauper, so he embarked on a deuce of a frightful dust-up with the trooper. He topped the trooper's head, kicked him over, and pinned him down in the sand. Your father hurt his own shoulder in the process. The pauper filled his pockets with grub and slung his hook, whilst our general, filled with extreme infuriation, gave orders for your father to be shot. So your father disappeared, ran astir for several hours before resting by a well. I dare say he was rather tired when the 7 daughters of a dealy-bob, a tribal priest, came by to draw water for their livestock. All was good until some shepherds, with extreme bluntness, tried to drive those daughters away. Your father confronted those shepherds and left them in a blind funk. He helped the daughters to take all the water they needed. And so the tribal priest, with extreme gratitude, cared for your father until he was fit enough to join the army. For your father, with extreme patriotism, was still driven by his duty to serve. But he was also keen to avoid the general, so he decided not to return to his original unit and went to a doohickeyer, concentration camp instead. That was whence I met him. His eyes weren't weak and his muscles were still strong, but he was killed by a Zulu whose farm had been burnt by British troops as part of our scorched earth policy. After he spent many months running messages for the British Army, that Zulu had returned to our camp, where he discovered that his wife had been raped. I dare say he was enraged and seeking some sort of extreme vengeance. And so, mistaking your father for a man who'd abused his wife, he shouted, "Your descendants may walk this land, but you'll never cross it again." He grabbed a rock, smashed it through your father's skull, and killed your father in an instant. Well, Mr. What's-your-name, I dare say you think you're acting like he did, making a stand for humanity, no matter how much you might have to suffer for it. Alfred starts to smirk, snicker, and smile, because he is grateful for Colonel's kind style, and is grateful to learn why his father ended up in that ghastly place. Having already seen that soldiers can be kind and refined, he realises that his father was not such a big disgrace. "It's most important to consider," the Colonel says, as he scratches the moles and the holes which cover his craggy face. "But your father, when you come to think of it, only died after he left the army. Most important. He never got hurt whilst he was following orders, putting his country first. Because the army is here to protect you, Mr. Yourself. I dare say, like your father, you'd only die if you skedaddled off alone. So don't be too clever. It's the clever ones who come to the worst grief. If, with extreme dignity, you fall in line, you shan't come to a sticky end like your father." Alfred just smiles, looks at his files and this wall which is covered in tiles. "Okay then," the Colonel negotiates with his 2 associates who are officiating his military trials. "As is a custom, we can, whatchamajigger, commute the sentence of one prisoner. Shall I release this Mr. What's-his-name, this King of the Conchies? Damn that, don't pardon this lump of foul deformity, this bottled spider, this burly-boned clown. Pardon a real soldier instead." Provost Marshal squeaks like a mouse in a funk. "Release the barbaric rebel," the commanding officer says in a daze, referring to a soldier who rioted whilst he was drunk. "Then what should I do with this dealie, this dingus, this man you call the King of the Conchies?" the Colonel asks his flunky. "Kill him!" the Provost Marshal screams out like a manic monkey. "This puppy-head monster doesn't care a rush for his country. This bugger is claimed to be the King of the Conchies. He's guilty of treason. We have no king but the British king. Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" "Kill the jellyfish," the commanding officer concurs. "He's tried to destroy the state which brought him into the world, and nurtured him, and educated him. Oh yes, he's failed to fulfill his duty." "But why?" the Colonel asks. "What crime hath he committed? This trial monarchy does fill me with extreme shudders." "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Kill this ugly and venomous toad! Kill this man of falsehood! Kill this sheep-whistling rogue, and damn the bugger too!" The Provost Marshal snarls like a coyote. "Kill him!" the commanding officer echoes in a voice which is throaty. "Kill him! And kill him! And kill him! Kill the mermaid!" The temperamental soldier is about to shout death, but he stops to breath and begins to sigh. He's about to swing his fist, but he desists and begins to cry. "Mr. What's your name? You'll be sentenced on the morrow. The Colonel begins his reply. But off the record, I dare say I have nothing to do with your who's what, your your death. I can't find any fault with you myself. Piffle, I'll be happy to shoulder the responsibility. The Provost Marshal barks like a seal before he starts to squeal whilst he stamps down on his heel. Eeeeee! 'Tis my duty. I'll drink my cup to the dregs if it damns this whoreson, this senseless villain, and this mildewed ear, in the name of my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren too. Bugger the bugger! Bugger me! Temperamental soldier leaves Alfred out of his store, through this door, and through this open gate. He wears a wide smile as he shoves Alfred down this wide aisle and down this wide straight, before they arrive in the cell with a fetid smell where Alfred sits down to wait. He waits until his friends return with faces which are covered in fears, covered in tears, and covered in salty sweat. The agitator looks meek, the Christian looks bleak, and the socialist looks rather wet. Come, come, Alfred says, whilst the athlete starts to fret. Please, please, please. We'll be fine. The Colonel is a good man. He has the biggest heart I've ever known. He has amazing energy for a man his age. For sure, the other soldiers may want a shot, but he'll look out for us. Yes, thank you. If only it were up to him, Engineer whinges. I fear the decision will come from above. Our trials didn't mean a jot. Oh, whatever have we done? Have we offended the heavens? Have we walked under a ladder? Have we broken a mirror? The apprentice twists and the nurse turns, before the tax collector returns and the schoolmaster follows him too. Their trials soon finish, with durations which diminish as the army rush them all through. My trial only lasted 7 minutes, the watchmaker says whilst he taps his shoe. But the major did say, it'd be monstrous to shoot us. We split them like a banana, I tell you. Some of those fruits are on our side. Have we split them? Yes, the clerk proclaims as he fiddles with his chains and those window panes. Are some of them on our side? Yes. Would they be fighting for Germany if they'd be born over there? Yes. Will they set us free? No. No one likes a Conchi. Perhaps, the apprentice says, but I did get the general soldier to send a letter back to my parents. He's a good sort, that one. He sure is first class. I wrote, the military has absolute power here, and our disobedience may very well get us shot. But don't be downhearted. If the worst comes to the worst, many have died for a lesser cause. Puff, it's a very nice bit. Jolly tippy. That's the spirit, Alfred tweets, as he discovers his sweets, which are hidden between his folded bed sheets. This could be our last night together. It could be our last night on earth. Please, let's make sure it's a good one. So amidst the monstrous sound of this angry battle, these stuttering rifles with a rapid rattle, and these demented bombs which scupper, the peace units sit down for one final time in this grit, gravel and grime to enjoy their last supper. My friends, Alfred begins to utter, please understand, we've been placed on this earth for a reason. We're here to bring an end to the bloodshed and slaughter of war. Yes, yes, yes. Tomorrow we'll walk in the name of peace. We'll stand for peace, and it will bring us peace. Peace, peace, peace. But first, please let us be cleansed. Alfred walks around this underground wooden box, gets his disciples to remove their socks, and washes their cheesy feet. Unsure what is happening, his disciples do not say a thing before the engineer falls from his seat. You'll be fine, Alfred tells him in a voice which is blaring, caring, and sweet. You'll be fine, fine, fine. You're rad. You're more fun than a barrel of monkeys. And before they eat their feast, Alfred lights frankincense which came from the east, through Syria, Sudan, and Spain. Having travelled with Alfred throughout his life, it helps the peace unit to conquer their strife, pangs, problems, and pain. So Alfred's confidence increases as he breaks his bread into 12 even pieces and speaks out once again. Please eat this. Please, please, please. This is the body of our earth, the fields of home, and the ground beneath our feet. His conchies all follow. They all swallow and they all digest this food, before Alfred takes his jug and fills his mug in a particularly joyous mood. Please, he starts to conclude, let's drink from the same cup. This water has travelled down every river, filled every lake, and washed over every shore on earth. It will unite us. It will make us one with the world. All for one and one for all, the watchmaker cheers as he holds these things. All for one and one for all, his comrades reply like kings. All for one and one for all, Alfred sings. Been eager to eat with you before we're all made to suffer. You're special, I respect you, and I love you all. And so I won't eat or drink until we've been killed or freed. No thank you, because peace is our sustenance now. It's the bread of our lives. With it, we'll never be hungry or thirsty again. We'll be the living earth, the water of the world, and we'll never experience death. For we are the way, the truth, and the life. We've acted with peace, lived in peace, and become peace. Peace, peace, peace. and peace will protect us tomorrow. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you. Alfred's pomp, pageantry, and pretences assaults his disciples' 5 senses and prepares them for the road ahead. With the smell of frankincense which fills each lung, the sight of conches uniting as one, and the taste of hardened bread, with the sound of Alfred's powwow, and the feeling of water on feet just now, which splashed the schoolmaster's bed. Alfred has prepared his disciples for this morning's walk, during which they are told not to talk, as they climb through this boggy flood, as they climb past his molehills and crimson fields, these farmers who are bundling their yields, and this boot which is buried in mud, these trees which have been bitten by pigs, these knobbly twigs, and this tomb which is covered in blood. Peace unit climb up to this great height, where Britain is almost in sight, as it hides in the misty distance. They think about being alone, their home, and their somewhat frail existence. These kestrels, kingfishers, and kites perch in many different sites on each side of this massive parade ground. They sit in these trees, near those bees, and watch these soldiers who start to abound. These soldiers who are dressed in blue trousers, buff blazers, and khaki suits, in coupled caps, leather straps, and polished boots, who line up with theatrical precision under authoritative supervision in perfectly square blocks, who line 3 sides of his square with putty in their hair and starch in their bright white socks. They sway in this breeze and face these conchis who are led like sheep to the slaughter, who are prodded by these goons with these sharp harpoons, and who are splashed with this murky water. Like a pearly white dove, they make a stand for love, they make a stand for peace. They hold their breath, wait to be sentenced to death, or given some sort of release. They stand still whilst they wait to hear their sentence, without any sort of repentance, but lots of scorn, suspicion, and suspense. Whilst his bugler plays a song which he learnt in a concert hall, this military call, and this ballad which sounds immense. Slow tick follows slow tock. His hands go round this clock, and his chickens begin to cluck. As these notes are chimed, these rhythms are rhymed, and these chords are all struck. The peace unit feel under threat, and begin to sweat, with hearts which begin to pound, before that clock strikes noon, and the bugler plays his final tune, which ends with a glorious sound. Silence descends, and stillness ascends, as the commanding officer faces his square, as he slides, glides, and gives a medal to this goon with blonde hair. "Sea urchins," he begins to blare, "this man should be an example, and a role model, and an inspiration to every one of you. Every one of you. His bravery in battle is to be lauded, and commended, and celebrated. He has earned, and deserved, and merits this medal. But not everyone here appreciates the glory of war, and the army's honour, and their duty to serve. Oh no." The commanding officer continues to lecture, spouting his creeds, canons, and conjecture, but Alfred's mind is already elsewhere. He sees Cleo's bleeding, and the time she started receding before she approached him in the town square, and he sees himself covered in blood, being shot down in the mud, which forms rivers everywhere. He sees the time when the mute boy almost drowned, as he sees himself sink through this ground, surrounded by mud without any air, and he sees the papers in the colonel's hands, from where he stands, on which the word death fills him with despair. With shaking knees, his vision starts to freeze, which almost leaves him blind. Colours seem scuzzy, outlines seem fuzzy, and shapes seem less defined. Hellish hallucinations and demonic divinations begin to plague his mind. Gravel turns into whirlpools of grey, and trees begin to sway as Alfred struggles with sanity. Sight seems to blur, and voices seem to slur as he struggles with his soldier's vanity. But he breathes in and breathes out to escape his distress, discomfort, and doubt, and free his teeth, tummy, and toes. His breath travels from bronchiole to bronchi to larynx, up through his pharynx, and all the way out through his nose. Before he watches the provost marshal, he seems far from impartial as he spouts his pro-war prose. "Friends, Brits, countrymen, lend me your ears," he cries like a rabbit with shaky thighs and shaky toes. "You represent a fine institution with a proud history and the highest goddamn standards known to mankind. Standards which must be maintained. Insubordination, free thought, and disobedience are a threat to this establishment. Bugger me! They will not be tolerated here. Fleshmongers, fools, and cowards will not be tolerated here. Foul defaces of God's handiwork will not be tolerated here. Knaves who smell of stale sweat will not be tolerated here. So let the sentence which you are about to hear be a lesson to you. Let it teach you to remain disciplined, forgo your individuality, and stay in line at all times. God help you if you don't. Damn you if you don't." The provost marshal lifts his right knee, storms off through the scree, and sits down on that portable chair, before a colonel emerges from the shadows, passes his gallows, and addresses this enormous square. "Mr. What's your name? Bob? Alfred Freeman," he begins to blare. "Sally forth." Alfred stands here still and looks out of that hill before he's pushed on into position. In his prime, this is his time and the culmination of his mission. "Private," the colonel reads with a formal disposition, "you've been found guilty of of refusing to obey lawful commands, extreme disobedience whilst undergoing field punishment, and taking part in a mutiny." This verdict was never in question. This introduction was just a procession before Alfred is sentenced here, where, unlike each previous threat, which Alfred has been able to forget, this time he is full of fear. Because this is war, and this is France, where his soldiers lead a merry dance, with their kabangs, kadangs, and kablows. This is war, and this is active duty, where his soldiers kill with indifferent cruelty to deliver the deathly blows. This is a show of intent, where his soldiers are being taught not to dissent by his colonel's pro-war prose. "The sentence of this court is for you to suffer death by being shot," he says, whilst he scratches his nose. "This extreme sentence had been confirmed by the the thingamabob, the field marshal, the man in charge of the whole of the British army. It's no more than these bloodfishes had coming to him, and warrant, and deserve. Oh yes," the commanding officer says with his mouth agape. "Quite right too," the provost marshal gibbers like an angry ape. "Spot on, damn hit the nail on the head, damn this naughty patted fool, this king of codpieces, and this old lovemonger, damn the bugger, damn all the damn conchies." Bodies freeze and stomachs drop, hearts stop, and lungs forget to inhale. The peace unit feel bad, menaced, moribund, and mad, fraught, feeble, and frail. The engineer thinks about his health, the athlete thinks about himself, and the clerk thinks about his friends. They feel ethereal, shaky, spellbound, and surreal as their lives approach their ends. "Tut, tut, tut. I'll kill those suckers. They're making Alfred die for their sins," the agitator mutters after some moments have passed. "One would think so," the nurse slurs and concurs whilst he feels incredibly aghast. "Oh, darlings! Golly gosh! And to think we will be receiving the same sentence in half a jiff. Crikey! Crumbs! Cripes! How very ghastly! I dare say our listeners could not have made it home." But the Quaker journalist has published his report. Peacemakers have written to newspapers to show their support, and the peace unit story has begun to spread. The philosopher King has written articles about their plight, and the commitment not to fight, which have all been well read. Peacemakers have campaigned for them outside buildings, businesses, and banks. Warmakers have tried to rid them from the army's ranks, and free politicians have agitated for Parliament's flanks. I say, will the right honourable gentleman either confirm or deny that my constituent, the schoolmaster, has been sent to France against his will? The wide-eyed Quaker politician inquired with a lisp. The night was so cold, chilly and crisp that fires had to be lit in Parliament. His question had inspired a flurry of hear-hears, a flurry of jeers, and a flurry of argument. "I can assure the right honourable member that the conscientious objectors in France are doing a splendid job. They're serving their country admirably," the War Secretary had replied, and lied as he brushed the truth aside. "The fellow in question is not really declining to obey orders at all. He's going on quite happily." One has been led to believe by a certain gentleman in the lobby the four conscientious objectors have been sentenced to death for refusing to follow orders. "Will my right honourable friend please reassure the House that this is not the case?" A Scottish politician with a receding hairline and a crooked spine had quizzed just 2 days later, and the War Secretary denied it again with fiercely earnest disdain as his lies grew ever greater. "It's indubitable," he screamed like a crazed dictator, "that this government has no intention of dealing with conscientious objectors in any way harshly. Aforesaid, there should be no question of them being sentenced to death. We know that you've sent men committed to peace into the arena of war, high-handedly, with a resolve to kill them," the Liberal politician asked of 1 more week. "Order! Order! Order!" the War Secretary began to shriek as he rose to speak on the third leg of his dishonest streak. "What utter flummery and balderdash! Mr. Speaker, this gentleman is sorely misinformed. As far as I am concerned, and as far as the War Office is concerned, no man should be sent to France who we have good reason to believe is a genuine conscientious objector, not over my dead body." Before the War Secretary could find his flow, a rooster had flown in and begun to crow. It clucked, cackled, and cried. So despite the peacemakers' lobbying and jockeying, the peace unit's very existence had been denied. They had been neglected, refuted, revoked, and rejected, and nonchalantly brushed aside. This was the case in the public domain at least, but in private the peacemakers' efforts had begun to increase across every British territory, township and town. Peacemakers had even influenced the Prime Minister, a man who considers conscription to be sinister, once muttered "abominable" whilst he paced up and down. In the days which had followed, the Prime Minister had wallowed because the peace unit's plight had driven him to distraction, before he came to the conscious defence and sounded immense when he condemned the army's actions. "Under no circumstances," he wrote with satisfaction, "may the army conduct any executions which have not been approved by the War Cabinet first. Do not be abominable." Yet wherever the peace unit have gone, for however long, the death threats have continued on. "You disrespectful devil shall face court-martials on the morrow, and shall be off to France soon after," the staff sergeant had shouted with dread, while he shook his chubby head and his face turned red. "Playing the devil should get you shot quick sharpish out in that devilish hole. It sure is a devil of a way to go, you damned degenerates." The other countries who've come this way all done got conformed, done got hard labour, or done got shot. There's a list in the officer's canteen of their fates. Death or conformity. "You kiddies will be next," the zealous soldier had warned. "If you don't comply with orders, you'll be shot," the commanding officer had said, sound as God. "And if you don't conform to army ways, you'll be shot. And if you don't meet our standards, you'll be shot as well. You've got your work cut out just to stay alive. Don't expect any sympathy, soldiers. Don't expect any sympathy." But those threats did not have any sort of clout, because the warmakers did not have the authority to carry them out and proceed with their other war. So they left the peace unit afflicted, annoyed and abused, bullied, beaten and bruised, because they could not do anything more. Yet, as thousands of soldiers line up across this enormous square, with shiny putty in their shiny hair, it appears their efforts have borne fruit. It appears that the warmakers have won a victory to savour, that decisions have gone in their favour, and they now have permission to shoot. Things in Britain have indeed moved along, but it has been the peacemakers who have moved them on, with their non-stop braying, bellowing and bleating. They have moved things along in the Prime Minister's own study, where the philosopher king looked ruddy as he sat on some green leather seating, because the organiser had spoken out in many directions and used her many connections to arrange a crucial meeting. "Good afternoon, Prime Minister," she had said by way of a greeting. "I think you should know that people, good people, peaceful people, have been thrown into a war which they abhor, and face being shot for refusing to support it. It's illegal, it's immoral, and it's irresponsible. If we don't do something to stop this awful juice, if you, Prime Minister, don't do something to stop it, we can kiss goodbye to liberty, we can kiss goodbye to equality, and we can kiss goodbye to fraternity. We can kiss goodbye to everything good about this country which we all adore. It's damnable. It really is a limit. So remember this. History shan't judge you for the way you act in the name of war, Prime Minister, but for how you act in the name of peace. History shan't judge you for your might. It shall judge you for your compassion. It shall judge you for this very moment. It shall judge you for how you act here and for how you act now." The Prime Minister had already been forced into a war which he opposed, and he had already been forced to introduce conscription despite not wanting it imposed, as he marched to the army's beat. So as he sat amongst friends, he decided to make amends, without being detached, disconnected, or discreet. "You're right," he began to plead. "It'd be monstrous for people to be shot for refusing to kill. Abominable! It will never happen on my watch. Never!" And yet Alfred finds himself surrounded by his soldiers who are dressed in blue trousers, buff blazers, and khaki suits, in copper caps, leather straps, and polished boots. He finds himself surrounded by his soldiers who line up with theatrical precision, under authoritative supervision, in perfectly square blocks, who line three sides of this enormous square, with putty in their hair and starch in their bright white socks. "The sentence of this court," the colonel has just said, staring ahead whilst he kicked some bright white rocks, "is for you to suffer death by being shot. This extreme sentence had been confirmed by the thingamabob, the field marshal, the man in charge of the whole of the British army." And so bodies have frozen, and stomachs have dropped, hearts have stopped, and lungs have forgotten to inhale. The peace unit feel bad, menaced, moribund, and mad, fraught, feeble, and frail. The agitator mutters, "Let me at him! Low-life scum!" The socialist twiddles his thumb, and the apprentice begins to scowl. Alfred sees his life pass before his eyes. The nurse sighs, and the engineer begins to howl. But the colonel seems blue as he takes him his view, and continues his sentencing too. "Your sentence hath subsequently been commuted," he says, whilst he taps his shoe, "to 10 years of penal servitude with hard labour. Your extreme was sick. What not? Lucky. Mr. What's your name?" This reprieve means that the peace unit's helplessness and the speechlessness do not last for too long. The watchmaker giggles, the clerk wriggles, and the apprentice breaks out into song. "We're going home," he says as he starts to feel strong. "What's 10 years? Nothing. They'll never beat us. Woohoo! Yippee! Whoop whoop! Back of the net, the athlete says as he turns pale. We've hit them for 6. Bring on the revolution, the socialist begins to wail. Long live the workers! I don't believe it, the engineer says as he bites his nail. I don't understand. Me? I understand nothing. Have we told them? Yes, the clerk says as he fidgets with his shirt tail. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Ghastly thing, this war. No one likes a conchi. Ta-da-da-da-da! Peace! Power! The agitator shouts like a buccaneer without any fear so that all these soldiers can hear. Let me at 'em! Let me at 'em! You suckers never stood a chance! We splattered you, rocked you and socked you! You'll never keep us down! Hallelujah! Praise the Lord! The Christian cheers in floods of tears as he looks around at his peers. 2 minutes ago we were dead, but now we've been resurrected. We've become martyrs for peace. Praise you, Jesus. You've saved us all. We've been condemned to death, crucified and entombed in prison, but you'll help us to rise again.